This episode of Watch Out for Fireballs is brought to you by our patron, Jonathan. If you'd like to join Jonathan, head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You can sponsor an episode, get episodes early, and get a bunch of cool bonus stuff. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for listening. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are beginning our discussion of Divinity Original Sin 2, which is a PC role-playing game developed and published by Larian Studios for the PC in 2017.
Yeah. We're entering the age of Agarius. It is, I'm so happy.
Yeah,
I'm so happy.
This month is pretty well bifurcated. I mean, I think both of us feel about the same about Ratchet and Clank, which is, neat.
Okay.
That's why I've not played one of those. Yeah, cool.
Look at those little critters.
I'm game. Yeah,
I'm sure they get up to some adventures. Those little mascots.
Yeah. But we've got two episodes of this. We have Riven, which I'm already diving head first back into the world of Mist. Yeah, this month is it's pretty. Yeah, it's we're in the coal hole. So
the nice thing is I got you for 80 hours of this new fish.
I got you for 12 hours of that.
Welcome. I was born in the darkness. This episode, I will be eternally thankful to our patron, Jonathan, for suggesting it. We don't typically do really long games or two-parters on request, just to set an expectation. But this is something that I wanted to get on the schedule really bad anyway.
You threw your vanity pick for this month at it.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? A patron chose this, and I really want this. I'm gonna, I'm gonna push for this, and I'm extremely good Lord, am I digging it? It's
really good. You laid Bobby. You laid it out like this is going to be one where we're divided on it. I'm like, this is an A for you. This is like an A plus 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 plus.
Yeah. This is a top 5 for me. I think is what I've kind of determined. Like this is entering into desert island material.
Yeah. For
me, like it's very deep and rich and long, I'm playing it a second time. I'm discovering things I didn't discover before. It has this knowledge compresses the space of the tactics the same way that it compresses geographical space in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Like things that were taking me like 7 or 8 tries. The first time I went through, I'm acing now because I just know how to stack the decks in my favor. And it is just remarkably satisfying. It is hard for me to put down when there is a fight around the corner.
And for me, it's appropriate that this comes about a year after we cover Legend of Grimrock 2, because I feel like they both kind of fall under the same lane for me, just in that I am way into both of them, and it's not normally a kind of game that I would, I wouldn't put this on my dating profile,
Oh yeah.
I would be more prone to Sam and Misthead than I am first person dungeon crawl or tactical RPG head kind of guy. Yeah.
The just real quick shout out to a member of our Slack who I don't want to name, but whose current Slack handle is Divinity Original Simp, which could be a good dating profile name if you we're going to put this on your dating profile. So shout out and apologies. I'm not trying to withhold credit. I just want to maintain privacy.
Yeah.
This first episode is going to cover generalities, which are spicy. This is us doing the homework so we can, cruise past some stuff in the game.
Yes.
In terms of combat. And we're going to talk about the first 2 chapters, so the prologue and then chapter 1, Fort Joy, not Fort Joy. That's what I experience every night.
Yeah.
Fort Joy. I want to put a disclaimer here. We're not getting everything in this.
Nope.
Nope. I'm on my second playthrough and there's still things I know I'm not getting. Like I'm looking through, I'm just like, I'm not sure how to do that. I don't really feel like looking it up. This is so generous as to be Homer with the donut machine in hell. So just, if we leave out your favorite quest or we don't talk about your favorite characters, really cool details that come out specifically when you main them, it's because you have to play this game 6 times to completion to get all of those details.
Right.
I can't do that now.
Right.
So just know that we're not going to get everything.
Yes, that is a very good disclaimer to put up front. That said, I think between us, we're going to cover an awful lot.
I'm trying to do everything.
Yeah.
I'm just not succeeding at it. And I chose a specific character, which means that I'm only getting certain details. So
nice.
In this game, you play something called a sorcerer. It's spelled different, as if source, the word source. And that is in this world a kind of forbidden magic. And people who use this magic, are captured and interred by this order called the Divinity that try to curtail this invasion of demonic creatures called the Voidwoken. So when you use this magic, it doesn't always happen, but there's a chance that it kind of summons these demons.
Yeah, these bugs or these sea krakens or these worms that appear and issue vague threats toward you in a deep voice.
Yeah, like bassy threats, bassy Lovecraftian monsters. This is all rich backstory that you do not really need. This is a million years in the future sequel to Divinity Original Sin 1, which is the latest in a long series of multi-genre games. So there is background to this stuff. You don't need it. You just need to know forbidden magic, basically.
Yeah. I know nothing. I never played any of the previous Divinity games. I never played Original Sin the first. And so I was a little bit worried that I would be, on my heels. Not the case. Everything is well explained in its context. And in looking around, there are characters who appear, like specifically, like this is technically, it comes after the timeline of the Divinity 2 or Divine Divinity or something like that. So there are characters who will pop up from that into this, but that is fan candy, is my understanding.
Yeah. You can get context clues to understand it. No problem.
When you roll up your game, you can either main as a custom created cipher, or you can pick from one of these origin characters, these 6 developer made characters with their own personalities, with their backstories, their own voice acting, and relevance to the goings on in the world to varying degrees. Don't worry if you don't pick one of them, you can still get them as companions. Like you are either picking them as your main, or you can pick them as your companion, or everybody can be ciphers. And it's funny because when you go to the mercenary captain, they will say, and they know how to shut up if the price is right, just kind of implying that this is the way that you go if you're not worried about the talkie and you want the slashy.
Yeah. They both exist. And it's worth saying, like, we're going to talk about them, but it's worth saying that, like, you sent me this message in Slack, but like, there's not a loser in the bunch.
Right.
It's kind of incredible what they did with these 6 characters. The first time I played this, I wanted to make my own guy because that is joy to me in these games. I wanted to play as a cipher interacting with these people.
Yes.
And I'm playing as one of the named characters this playthrough and having much more fun doing that. I think that is the way to do it.
Who is your main, just while we're on the conversation here?
Losi.
Okay. So
Losa.
Yeah, the bard who was possessed by a demon.
Possessed by a demon. And her story is very integral to the main plot and is very good.
I'm playing as Fane, the undead member of a race who died off long ago, and rolling him as a wizard, and he also is integral to the events of the game.
Very integral.
Yeah.
Very integral. There are degrees of less integral
Yes.
That people become, but they all kind of connect to different threads in the world, which is a really clever way to do it.
Let me put it this way. They made the dwarf who loves violence interesting enough that I wanted him in my party.
Yeah, he's great. He's the one character I haven't had in a party. So whenever I eventually do my third playthrough, because I want to try doing the duo mode, the lone wolf mode, I'm going to use him.
Nice.
So the game can be played cooperatively, but we're going to talk about the single player experience. The cooperative experience from my little time with the first one is not really that different. You're talking to somebody, they're taking their character's turns. It's like co-op Baldur's Gate or what have you.
Yeah.
As somebody who is interested in the stories of these games, we found that difficult.
Yeah.
You had to find somebody who's exactly as interested in the lore, but just know that like many reports in the Slack of people who really loved playing through this co-op.
Nice. Yeah. And if you look at it, Divinity Original Sin 2 plays an awful lot like any other CRPG out there. It is a top-down view. You navigate your characters around towns and dungeons. You talk to people. You do some fights. You do some thieving. You do some solving puzzles, picking up items, putting them together, and completing quests in order to advance things. Pretty stock standard as far as that goes. But the devil or the voidwoken are in the details.
Yes, I am.
Because, the thing that makes this game stand out for as good as, kind of everything generally is the tactical combat system and let's say the sim-like elements generally.
Yeah, like it's almost like an immersive sim.
Yeah.
Western RPG in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
The combat is kind of the star of the show. It is turn-based, and you have perfect visibility of the turn order. So you get to see what order people are going in up at the top of the screen. And typically, there is an initiative where your character will determine which order your characters go in, but you'll always go back and forth with the enemy if there are even numbers.
Yes.
So it'll be your turn, computer's turn, your turn, computer's turn. And it is action point based. You begin the round with a certain number of action points, and these are used to move a certain distance. So you'll have a stat that's how much movement an action point is. You can attack. You can perform these special skills or actions on your hotbar, use items, scrolls, spells, etc. that cost certain amounts of action points.
Yes. Additionally, skills and spells. You don't have like a mana bar or a focus bar or anything. They're tied to cooldowns. So when you cast a spell or use a skill, it'll be out of commission for a number of rounds. It looks like a relatively low number. Generally it's like
five is about the max.
Yeah, like 2 rounds. Rounds last a while,
Yes.
so that tends to matter. Even if it's a 2 round.
So.
Yeah. There's a stat that governs how many skills you can have active at a given time. Obviously that's going to be more important for like casters and stuff like that.
Yeah. You also have certain super special abilities that are powered by source points, which you unlock partway through the game. This is what you were in jail for in the beginning. And you acquire source points a few different ways. One thing I want to give, I'm sure that there's a note for this later, but just as a quick shout out, the developers did a thing that I really love in this, where they put out the definitive edition of this, where they just incorporated a lot of mods as menu options.
Yeah.
They found fan mods and just cleaned them up. And one of them, in Act 2 of this, you get a room that basically has unlimited source stuff. And between combats, the first time I played this, I was teleporting back there. They made it so it was just regain on rest.
Oh, nice.
Which saves you tons of travel time, and I heartily recommend. Otherwise, you get an ability to get these from different living enemies and dead enemies as the game goes on, and it is integrated into the story as well.
Yes.
But these are powerful abilities. The idea being they have a powerful cost as well.
Yeah, they're like like limit break kind of things, and they differ by character.
Yes,
it is by character, right? Not by class or race.
Well, it's both. So there are characters. Every character has a unique one, including the Cypher character, and then the different skill sets have high level source abilities.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So this is a classless system. You just choose where to put your points. So multi-classing is key. We'll talk about that later as well.
Yes.
But it's not. You can get the high level necromancy source skill as anyone.
Right.
But only Losa gets the maddening song.
Yes. Yeah. So when you describe the combat, it's probably tempting to think of it like a Shadowrun or like an XCOM. However, things are not held to a grid. Everything is a little bit swimmy to a certain degree because it's handled by distances, radiuses, and area of effect. And things end up feeling an awful lot like Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition or 4th edition, since you have like attacks of opportunity and stuff.
Yeah. It's all very communicated to you very directly.
Yes.
So, ordinarily you'd want a grid system or something like that for ease of information. This will just show you the radius of a spell. And if something's caught in it, it will glow. And if something isn't, it won't.
Yes.
So it's not hiding information from you. Same thing with the arcs of projectiles and such. Like, it gives you near perfect information.
Yeah.
Which is a big upgrade over Divinity Original Sin 1, which had arrow arcs be something you had to kind of guess at, if I recall.
Oh,
I might be misremembering that because it's been a long time since I played that.
It's a thing in tactical games. Like, I remember seeing the arcs being like you had to spend skill points on that in Tactics Ogre, just to see the arc that an arrow would fly on. Yeah.
Yeah, this game is not interested in withholding information from you.
Right.
You can examine enemies as well to figure out their resistances and which special moves they have. And a really neat thing, and I apologize if I'm getting ahead.
No, that's all right.
But the enemy does this on you as well. So enemies have a stat where they will examine your characters, and the AI is driven by it. So if the enemy is one that in the world would have a really high, the skill is called Lore Master, they will make more tactical decisions against you.
Nice.
Because they can see your abilities and stats.
I like that.
Yeah, not about hidden information.
Yeah. So that would be why there are certain people, specifically casters, who completely make a beeline for my soft disguise, and everybody else tends to go for whatever's closest. That's neat. Yeah, I didn't realize enemies were doing that.
Yeah, I didn't until this playthrough. Like, I learned a lot on the second playthrough. Again, that richness.
Yeah. One of the key things about the combat here is something that was added for Original Sin 2, which is this armor system, kind of a differentiation between physical armor and attack armor. Magical armor. It's all attack armor. Physical armor and magical armor. Which I understand is a little bit of a cilantro thing. Some people are into this. Some people are kind of bothered by it. I can kind of see the upsides and downsides, specifically when it comes to damage focus.
Yeah, and the idea here is that, if you are wearing, if you're a mage and you have a lot of protection against magic, you'll be weak against a dude with a sword, and vice versa. And this systematizes this. And the reason it's important is because you have to deplete these armor meters before certain statuses will take effect. Some statuses can go through it. You can get some perks that play with that as well. But, for the big time statuses, which are really important, which we'll talk about in a moment, you want to wear down that armor.
No.
So, an enemy have a certain amount of health. If you're attacking them with a physical attack and they still have physical armor, it drains from those points first. And then if you want to put a status on them that is resisted by physical armor, you need to get that down first. And again, no hidden information. You can just look right at the grenade or spell or whatever, and it'll say what resists it. Statuses and consumables that cause those and give you buffs to get them are incredibly important in this game.
Yeah.
This is the game I would give people to break them of the I don't use my consumables.
Oh, for sure.
Thing. Because it's rigorous, like we'll talk about that. It's a hard game, but it's really the balance is for you to use your advantages, kind of on every axis, both in terms of your consumables and then also tactical and geographic advantages.
Yeah, they tend to. I mean, they have turned the tide of battle for me, especially things that blind. Things that
blind
do
is great.
things that do knockdown, or even like smoke grenades. The fact that there's like visibility that is in play ends up being super important.
The once you get kind of halfway through Act 2, you start getting reliable access to charm, and charm is obviously incredible.
Yeah,
in this kind of the to support the system, there are a couple of like interesting things. Like, you don't end up with a lot of enemies that have immunity. If they have immunity, it tends to be by class. So like, you can't put certain, undead monsters to sleep.
Yeah.
But you can charm almost anything, including bosses. And what you want to do here is basically turn denial from your enemy. A really consistent strategy in this is to focus fire on the biggest threat and get them in, kind of a turn denial loop. Somebody is always turning the boss into a chicken. And as long as the boss is a chicken, we can handle the rest of these ads.
I'm a chicken, Mark.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The and you can start with the chicken skill, which is literally from it.
Yeah.
So I saw a review of this. They were talking about the first one, I think, but I really like how they put this. Is that these games are built so it's this big toy box, and every encounter is stacked against you from the start.
Yeah.
If you just walk forward, the enemy has set up ambushes as they would, or you are encroaching into their area of power. So it is up to you to turn the tables the other way. And the game gives you just a huge Swiss Army knife of ways to do it.
Yes.
And people who have listened to me podcast for a decade know that being able to solve problems in my own way is the reason why I play games.
Yeah.
I don't want a reflex test. I want to think my way out of problems, and this game is perfect for that.
Think back to any number of anecdotes where Gary has said, "Oh, I want to kill that death claw, but I'm level 1. Well, I've got these mines, so let's see if I can make it happen." Yeah.
Or on the opposite side, something like this. The first one of this came out around the same time as Pillars of Eternity 1, which or the thing in like Grand Theft Auto where you try to assassinate the target of something or put up cars.
Yeah, and then it just despawns them.
Yeah, or the person's invincible until you get to a certain part of the chase. This game will not do that. It respects you too much to do that. Like it exists like a world. So if you want to, go and shoplift all this person's potions so they can't use them beforehand and you have the stats to do it, that is very viable.
Yeah.
Also viable is the manipulating the state of the battlefield. There's this very intense and robust kind of terrain system where the ground can be set on fire or ice or oil or water or blood or just sparking smoke or any number of things,
or cursed or blessed versions of any of the above.
Yes. Tons of different things you can do, and these elements interact with each other. And you have a huge number of ways to interact with this and manipulate it. So, oil will slow you down, fire will burn you, ice will make you slip and fall, etc. And you want to control this. You want to deny control of this to the enemy.
Yes, and they will take advantage of this. If you get to the end of a fight and the entire battlefield is not on fire, I would say that you didn't just play a Divinity Original Sin game, because the enemy is going to light everything on fire.
There is oil and fire in it becoming very frequent. These are oftentimes resisted by those same armors.
Yes.
So it's a thing you can literally spec for. There are builds online where that is the idea, is you literally just, fields of fire, everything, and you just pump your defense against that.
Yeah. With
all of your characters, drink a couple potions that are easy to craft, and you can make it so the floor is lava for thee, but not for me.
Yeah. And it's not just damage over time. So like if you throw a bunch of oil out, you don't really need to light them on fire for that to be useful, right? Because it will slow enemies as they run through it. We talked about how important turn denial is. Casting an ice spell on the ground will cover it in frost, and that will make them slip. So if they're trying to run through a bottleneck and they slip, guess what? Their turn is gone. It's yes. You don't get it now.
And all those things apply to you as well. So it's up to you not only to weaponize this, but also to mitigate it on your end.
Yeah.
The environment will also contribute to this, sometimes just freestanding, but also in the form of barrels of various kind of liquids that you can put around. So there'll be oil barrels and goo barrels, which are poison, water barrels, etc., which you can throw these around. Every character in this has telekinesis, which I think is very funny. So they avoid like animations of lifting things. So in battle,
pull a master shake. Yeah.
Exactly. It's very master shake. You can just throw things around or move them around from a distance.
Yeah. In addition to that, moving around is actually like a really fun thing to do, because quite early on, one of the most viable ways to get out of the second chapter here is to get a glove that lets you do teleportation. Teleportation is just a spell you can get at a relatively low level, low investment. So you can just bamf your buddies around, or pick somebody up and drop him in fire, or send him far away to a point where he won't be able to. It'll take him a couple of turns to get back up. That's real cool. In addition to a lot of these really powerful abilities that will let you cross long distances during an attack. One of the ones that I've gotten the most use out of is basically you can do a ranged backstab on somebody. It's called
that's
Backlash.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really cheap too. That's like a really great rogue signature ability.
Yeah.
The rogue also has my favorite tactic I've been using on this playthrough is to the rogue has a thing called ruptured tendons, which is a status effect that can't be resisted, that makes it hurt to move. And then if you turn that enemy into a chicken, chickens can only run away. So that enemy will just tear itself up. And I've like drained 75% of like bosses HPs with that combo. It's something, you know, I'm going to try not to harp on this game and comparing it to other role-playing games too much. When I think about tactical combat, it's amazing to me that there are games with tactical combat where spacing doesn't matter. Like, can you imagine something that matters more than where you're at in a physical space?
Can you name a specific game where spacing doesn't matter?
Well, I basically get like any kind of like line up and box each other, like Final Fantasy.
Oh, gotcha. Where they abstract the spacing away. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't even abstract it. They just get rid of it. You know, we're just going to stand face to face and punch each other and take turns like hitting each other with spells. There's adding this other dimension to it is just fucking incredible. High ground gives you benefits for damage, and you can spec into that.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to make a sniper that can jump up onto high ground and one shot things. You want to be controlling your area of effect. Your area of approach. Further, those kind of physics objects, the sim part of it, those barrels of rain and water and treasure chests and stuff can be manipulated before a battle as well. So if there is I know I'm going to fight a guy and they are going to try to circle around me, I can sneak behind them and block that off with, crates. So it doesn't stop them, but they have to bust through it if they want to take that direction.
Yeah.
Really incredible shit like that I've just not seen in role-playing games.
Well, I mean, specifically, and it's hard to find a succinct way to describe this, but the way that conversation itself isn't necessarily modal. So while one character is talking, you can take control of other characters and have them do stuff. So, think to any CRPG, a lot of encounters begin with, "You there, what are you doing in this space that I think is mine and you shouldn't be here?" And then you can taunt them back and blah, blah, blah. All that preamble is going on, and maybe you have the option to talk yourself around it. You can get your buddies in position. You can have them go and do stuff, do that positioning ahead of time. So when or get into position themselves ahead of time, so that you don't start out on as much of a back foot all bunched up from where you were running around, right?
Yeah. And it's you are meant to do this.
Yes.
I've seen this described as like cheesy or what have you, but to me this feels very diegetic. Like why would your dudes just stand there and like watch a fight start? Like I just imagine your guys just being like, "Well, I know where this is going," and then sneaking off to get into a more advantageous position.
It's taking something that would happen naturally in multiplayer into your own hands if you're playing it by yourself. Because if my buddy, if my buddy was over there talking with somebody and it looked like it was going bad, like, yeah, maybe I would go and like get behind the guy who seems like he's gonna rain spells on us.
Yeah, get closer, or even just get closer. Even if you get caught trying to get closer. And certain things you'll do will break this. Yeah. Like you can't just start killing all the ads, but even getting closer will give you kind of an advantage. And I love how this plays into the economy as well, because you can distract a character and then steal from them. Yeah. Which is something I've wanted to do in video games forever. Like whenever I'm playing like a Final Fantasy and there's a way to get back behind the counter and there's a chest there. And every time you go to the chest, it just gives me a flag that like the guy kicks me out. It's like, why can't I have Cecil talk to him and then just have Rosa go back there and like get some treats? Yeah. Pick up everything that isn't nailed down. You have diegetic reason for it and it's fun.
Yeah. Thieving is fun.
Super fun and serious.
There's no like place to put it because it's kind of assumed when we're talking about CRPG that this will be the case, but the world is littered with goods and doodads and stuff. You're not only going to be picking up things from torture tables in dungeons and stuff like that. Like if you're in somebody's house, you can go into stealth mode and take like an especially attractive magical bauble that's laying around. It has that kind of Elder Scrolls appeal.
They also do a thing that doesn't always happen in modern Fallouts, where if you kill the person who owns a house, all that stuff is no longer marked as stolen.
Oh, nice.
Like it's basically you own it. So if you get caught and you end up taking the person out, you don't have to worry about, karma hits or whatever.
Yeah.
For picking up red items like you would in Fallout 3.
I'm my own fence, by which I mean I threw this dumbass who owns this house onto a fence and killed him.
Yeah. He gets to live in fire now, and I'm going to take his paintings of Kickstarter backers. He has an extensive collection of Kickstarter backer paintings. I'm going to sell them for about 40 gold a piece.
Yeah.
I love sneaking and the way sneaking and thievery is incorporated into the combat. Like those sim elements make these things holistic. There's a really tough encounter near the end of Act 2 where there's like a mercenary encampment, and they have a alchemist on retainer who's called like the potion mixer or something like that. And getting out in front of it and taking all of his potions neutralizes him quite a bit. So we get into this fight, and he can't just be quaffing potions like crazy and throwing grenades. Like, I own them now. It made a really big difference in how that encounter went this time versus last time.
Yeah. And it also like keeps track of a bunch of stuff like that. Like early on, there's an important NPC who has some like, modified human bodyguards, these geists or whatever. If you kill them early on, they won't show up later. Right.
Yeah.
Like you can make a later encounter easier by taking out these things. It's not like they have replacements ready at hand.
Yeah, the game doesn't cheat like that, which is, I don't know exactly what the word is for that, but it's one of my least favorite things that video games do.
I don't know. You could probably say like it has
railroading.
It like observes ontological. It has an ontological consistency. Let's say
yes.
It
makes it feel more real.
Yeah. It is not creating new things and bending its rules to make up for the fact that you thought ahead. Yeah.
Yes. The NPC dialogue is fully voiced in the game, really expansive. So there's a lot of words in this, and it is the dialogue options are not written out. You're given a role-playing command, but it's not, love, hate newspaper. Like it's not Fallout 4. You basically summarize how you would say something, and it doesn't do the, you think it's sarcastic, but really you're like, I'm going to kill your fucking family. They match up.
Yeah. You don't run into any doubt and accuse kind of disparities. Yes. Right. Yeah. I think that's a really good way to handle it. It is a nice midway because, like, I don't know, when I read out verbatim what I want my character to say and I press it, that feels a little bit dry. The fact that it says, I say role playing commands is like it's put into asterisk, so it'll say express interest, but be doubtful because of this detail, and then that will inform the response that you get back. Which is good, and it gets around your half of the conversation needing to be voiced.
It also, it's worth saying that like the dialogue and story in this game are not embarrassing.
Yeah.
The dialogue in general is pretty good. It's not, we're not talking about Mask of the Betrayer, like absolutely moving, kind of philosophical concepts or anything. But it's at no point was I embarrassed by something somebody said. There's a level of polish to the writing and kind of bare genre competence that is weirdly rarer in this genre than I want it to be.
Yeah.
I would say it's basically, Baldur's Gate 2 level with some additional kind of more trippy concepts as the game goes on that it handles in an interesting way. But I was very happy because the first one is a little bit more Discworldy. There's a lot of humor to this game, and the first one is a little bit a lot of it goofier.
That's the whole series is my understanding that was one of the things that set this apart even back in like 2002 with Divinity was that this did kind of have a more overt sense of humor, kind of a lighter tone, a bit more punny. Discworld is a good comparison based on what I've read.
Yeah, this has that as well, specifically anytime you're talking to animals. But the actual serious dialogue that is meant to be dramatic doesn't make me want to die.
Yes.
It's not so melodramatic or purple that I get bored or angry.
Yeah. It's good.
Each character has different tags, which will give you unique dialogue options based on your skills or background. So like if you're a character who has Mystic or Scholar, you'll be able to weigh in on subjects that are around those.
Yes.
There are things, like Mystic, Jester, scoundrel, criminal, things like that. It's basically etiquette tags from Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Except more expansively deployed. So they'll be these are the things they check instead of skills, like whether you can decode a book.
Yes.
That you find, things like that.
Which makes a little bit more sense to me than I put a couple of points into skills. At no point in this adventure did I study, but now all of a sudden I can read like runic languages or whatever. You know,
it's because that's what Fane does.
Yeah, it's where he came from. Yeah. Tags also relate to your race or like a specific character. It ends up being, like a lot of times if a dialogue is more than just ambient townsperson kind of stuff, one of these will factor in and you can get more information. There are persuasion kind of checks that you can do. There is a persuasion civil ability, which we'll get to those in a little bit, that just kind of broadly defines how persuasive you are. But thankfully, there are different versions of persuasion that are modified by your skills. And oftentimes when you go into a persuasion, you can kind of pick your tack. So like a strength persuasion will have a dialogue option, where you're intimidating them. A wits persuasion will have you trying to like use your observation or talk them into circles, things like that.
It's so much smarter to put these all as stat variations on one skill rather than have intimidate, fast talk, deception. I want to see a tabletop game do this because I think this is a smarter way to handle this.
Yeah.
Social skills are kind of a mixed bag. This is one you're going to want. You want a character who can do persuasion.
Yeah.
This is a classless system, as we mentioned.
Like
the characters are very like school in summertime, baby. The characters are really customizable, including recruited NPCs. When you go up to recruit somebody, they'll be like, well, naturally I'm a fighter, but I've done a little bit of everything. What do you need in your team? The only thing that is hardwired into them are their starting stats and their one unique source ability and their race. So they'll have a racial ability. But you can customize your team.
Normally I'm a dwarf, but I'm pretty agreeable, so I could be an undead if you want me to.
Like if you'd like. Fane can do that. Fane gets that mask.
He does.
So he can actually do that. So there is kind of min-maxing that can be done in that respect. You don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to do that, but you can. And you can end up with some kind of counterintuitive things. Like, so my Fane is a thief because skeletons can pick locks with their fingers. And I didn't want to worry about a lockpick economy.
Yeah. No.
So my Fane is a thief / geomancer as opposed to a wizard, which is his standard thing.
The only character whose role that I changed is Losa, who is in my party. I made her into a summoner.
Yeah.
As opposed
to... What
did
she start as?
She starts out, I forget what she starts out as. It's like a debuff. It's a debuff mage, like an enchantress
like the necromancer?
Kind of thing.
The enchantress necromancer, like water and...
Like that.
So you can change these, and you can change them as you go. You build them however you like, and you can respec. Starting with Act 2, you get unlimited respecs. You can mod that in to have that available in Act 1, which is really good. And this kind of stops you from doing any kind of, analysis paralysis, like, getting afraid of making a suboptimal character.
Yeah.
You can change. And it allows you to do degenerate things like, I don't want to put all these points into lockpicking, but I'm just going to go back to the mirror and put my points into it for this one chest and then go back. Yeah. But if you're doing that, what are you doing with your life? Like, to me, that's I like that the game allows that, because you could also just do that through cheating. Like if I'm going to put in the work to teleport back to the ship and do that, I may as well just put in cheat engine and give myself unlimited. Lockpicking. So there is a little bit of like, I'm in the magic circle, I'm going to agree not to be a degenerate prick to this unlimited respec system. And I'd much prefer that power be in the hands of the player than the developer, really.
Yeah. I don't want to find like a little doodad around on the earth or have to pay 1,000 gold every time or what have you.
Yes.
Yeah. That would just make, effectively make me not do a respec. And I found myself, I did like one respec after the first act, and that was just because I had done some reading and found that like, oh, the retribution skill is bullshit. So like maybe use that point for something else. Just like learning about
there are a couple of
dump stats or dump abilities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are a couple of dump stats, but they're not so many of them, and they let you walk out of that.
Yeah,
which is good.
So the respecking system, big thumbs up. And I think that, if you're somebody who generally does fall into, either alt-itis, where you end up making new characters all the time, or like re-rolling because, man, I don't know if I want to commit. You don't necessarily have to commit. You can mess around and play with things. And as always, everything is going to respect your choices and your proclivity, what you enjoy engaging with.
Well, it makes it, you don't end up with a Diablo 3 situation either, where you can just respec at the menu whenever you want. There's a little bit of investment because you'll have invested economically.
You'll have gear for specific.
You'll have gear and skills, that you've bought. So you can't just do it willy-nilly, but you're allowed to do it at a cost, which I think is the proper balance.
Yes. Yeah. So your starting class, along with all of this, doesn't have an awful lot of impact on you. You can change everything as you would like. The attributes, so much of this is very much like D&D. Like attributes are just kind of renamed D&D stats. Again, because this game is not interested in hiding information from you. Sometimes to a fault, there's a little bit of interface clutter in this. It takes a little bit to learn how to read it. But when you mouse over, you can do a show more info, and it will tell you what like your current benefit is from being at this stat, and it will show you what the marginal benefit of a new point will be in this.
Yeah, very tabletop. The attributes are basically D&D, as you mentioned. You get abilities that are divided into combat and civil, and you get separate points for them on different levels. So every ability, every level, you'll get a different combat ability, but civil abilities and perks are rarer, which is really good.
Forcing you to invest in both is such a good thing. And
both instead of either.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, instead of being like, oh, having everybody be so hyper specialized, like here's somebody who's useless in combat because I need a person who can, we need a face. No, that doesn't necessarily happen.
Yeah. Get you a party of 4 that can do both, that can do all 8.
Yeah.
Combat ability determines what kind of weapons you can use, what kind of spells and skills you're able to use. They each also have a special ability to them that lend themselves to the weapon. So things like ranged combat, instead of increasing just your damage, increases crit chance and crit percentage. And then you have Huntsman, which is very similar, and that increases the amount of damage you get, buff you get from higher elevations.
Yeah.
So you have to actually look at what these things do. It's not just a skill point. That you would have.
Yes.
And stats will determine which equipment you can use. There is level gating and stat gating. So you can make a mage that can wear super heavy armor. There's no reason why not to. You just have to do the stat investment.
Yes. You have to be strong enough to carry it.
Yeah. And then civil abilities are things like persuasion, barter, lore master, and then your thief abilities.
Yes.
So sneaking and thieving. These cap out in another decision I really like. Equipment, the main thing with equipment in this is that they give you buffs to different skills and stats. These cap out as 5 points. You can put in them naturally, but there are checks that require 6 or 7 for it, for like the really big ones. So like, being a CRPG worth its salt, you can talk end bosses out of fighting. It's got that Fallout lineage, but you need to be superhumanly persuasive.
Yes.
It's not enough just to have made a face character. You have to be the face character who's also wearing like a full set of persuasive gear.
I agree with what you're saying, but I would be more inclined not to kill you if you were wearing a better hat.
Yeah, you're not dressed like Matthew Lesko enough. So I don't know if you can make me question my decisions.
Question.
Like so you have to actually really push it. And this allows you to do some pretty incredible things. Like my thief right now, I think his thievery level is sitting at an 8, which I can clean out merchants basically. Because they do a neat thing with thieving where you have likely how much stuff you can take from them in terms of value and space.
Yeah.
That increases with your thieving ability. It's not chance of success because there's a minimum, you know, a certain character level, you won't be able to steal from them at all. But you can end up in a situation where you can steal from somebody, but you only can grab one item.
Yeah.
And then as you go, you can grab more and more stuff.
That makes sense. Like at low level, you can pick their pockets, maybe take some coins, maybe take a potion or whatever. At high
in a high level, like, you get to like take the armor.
Where the fuck are my pants? My van braces.
Yeah. I depole drawn you. You've been depole drawn.
Oh man.
I really like that touch because just the chance of success is boring. You know, like this, you know, like I'd reload. You know, if I get caught during this thing, like this is maybe too consequential. I could roll with the thing and that's fine. I can kill the merchant and kill the guards and that's perfectly viable.
Yeah.
But if that's not how I want to play it, why make this, you know, give me the information, tell me the chance of success and say like, hey, you can take that thing you really want, but he's going to know. You know, the marker is going to go red. There's no way he doesn't notice this.
Yes.
Real quick, just while we're on civil abilities, they also do a thing that's really interesting where, the characters are not super idiots. Like they'll realize stuff is missing. And they have a system where if a merchant or somebody realizes something is missing, the area around them becomes a crime scene.
I love that.
And if you're around, they'll ask you like, hey, like somebody took something from me. Do you mind if I search your bag? And you either have to persuade them out of it or fight or let them search.
You there with my pauldrons. Have you seen my pauldrons?
Hey, where are my pants? There was when I was in high school, there was this guy who was kind of like a weird outsider dude.
Okay.
And in gym class, if we didn't have a shirt, if we didn't have the right color shirt, you know, we had to wear black shorts and an orange shirt for our school colors.
Oh, weird.
And the teacher said, like, if you need a shirt, you know, ask me. Because apparently he just had a big pile of leftover shirt from presumably dead old high school students.
Right.
And that kid gained a certain amount of like cool high school fame by all of us sitting around in our squads waiting for gym and him walking stock straight out of the locker room without his shirt going, I need a shirt. I need a shirt. It was very good.
Confidence.
Jeff. But you know, the person will question you for that. And merchants will not, you know, buy their own things back from you. Like something can be marked as stolen. So if you get searched, you're in trouble. But if you go to another town and sell that, they're not going to be like, oh, there's a weird whiff of stolenness to this armor.
Right.
You know, I have super information. I can't take that. Like they don't know because that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, so good shit.
It's good stuff. And like the civil abilities are also like barter and things like that. Something that I wish I knew ahead of time was that you have thievery and sneaking. That determines your ability to get by unnoticed outside of combat.
Yes.
In combat, you know, I think it is kind of more dependent on positioning and things like that, and like vision cones. Also, when you're sneaking, you on the world map, you can see vision cones as well.
Yeah. Yep. You get sight lines.
Yes.
So there is a stealth integrated into this in a way. So,
yeah.
You also get talents. These are the rarest thing you get. I think it's like every 4 or 5 levels. These are like feats in D&D or perks in Fallout. These are permanent changes to your abilities and how you use skills and spells. They have ability gates. So, you know, you need to be this much of a scoundrel to do this. And these are very powerful.
Yeah.
There are ones that are useful for anybody, you know, so we mentioned attacks of opportunity before. For people who don't know, that's if somebody like turns their back to you and walks away, whether you can attack them. That's something you buy through this. And there are incompatibilities. So you can have that with you, but you can't have the thing called the pawn, which allows you to move one movement thing for free.
It's the pawn. The
huge.
Pawn and executioner are incompatible, mostly because it would allow you to cross an entire map by killing people.
You're right. It's the attack of opportunity is incompatible with Duck Duck Goose, which allows you to avoid attacks of opportunity. The executioner gives you extra action points when you kill an enemy. The pawn lets you move for free. These are very useful.
Yes.
There are ones that I would never mess around with that are like fiddly and elemental focused.
Yes.
Like I have, you know, in my future kind of thinking of different playthroughs of this, I've thought about doing like the 4 elements, like doing 4 mages that are hyper specialized.
Yeah.
in those 4 spheres, and then I would fuck up these perks, but have not played that yet.
Yeah, like the elemental ones, like the big one that I saw, which I may or may not mess around with, but it seems really kind of dangerous. And there are other ones I would get before it, but like elemental affinity, which is like if you stand in water, your water spells.
They take 1 less action point.
Yeah, which is huge. Yeah,
you get free stuff.
Jinx. We said it's huge at the same time, but also like you have to stand in fire, but you can spec so fire won't hurt you very much. So you know everything can be kind of built around and built towards. And there are stats that are very obviously meant for different kinds of people. So like for my caster, like having Far Out Man, which extends your range on things, and having, I think it's like Savage Sortilege, which gives a critical chance on damage spells. Like that's really important for your casters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's Torturer, which allows certain status effects to go through armor. That's necessary for any fighters you have.
Yes.
So you can bypass that armor system.
Yeah.
That is very good. Special attention to Pet Pal.
Yep.
Pet Pal was in the original versions of Talent. One of the mods that the creators included made that instead give you a bonus and made everyone able to talk to animals because they realized it was such an integral part of the game they made. Some of the most delightful, conversations and really cool quests also come from this.
Also, some of the most heartbreaking. I did teach a dog about the concept of death.
You do have to teach dogs about death a lot.
No, he go sleep long time, not wake up.
Yeah, it's very We Three, the way dogs are portrayed. Did you run into? I mean, we'll talk about it in the in Fort Joy. Did you run into the sorcerer crab?
I did not run into the sorcerer crab. I saw you post a screenshot of the sorcerer crab, or
just
of a write-up about
shit.
the sorcerer crab. Describe it now, because you brought it up.
You run into a crab and you can talk to them because you can talk to animals, and they say that they're on Fort Joy because they're a powerful sorcerer. They've been captured just like you, and they had no follow-up questions. When we were there, the sorcerer crab saved me from an assassin. Saved my red prince from an assassin, which was awesome. And then you think there's there's nothing to that. And then 2 acts later, you run into another crab who says he's a source hunter, which is what you are in the first game. And they'll ask you whether you've seen the first crab. And if you say like, yeah, I like that crab, he turns into a giant crab and you have to fight him.
That is so good.
I'm fucking so excited. There's a really good part in Act 2 where there's a character who has a pet dog and a pet cat. And they ask you to settle a bet for which one their master loves more. And they're having a very like cat and dog situation. So the dog is just like, he says, I'm a good boy. He never says good cat, and the cat's like, yeah, he might admire you, but he has to actually understand the sophistication of me to love. Love is a more complicated emotion than that. You might think you love him, but it's just this base affection. And they just have this little debate. And it's just this little tiny little questlet. There's a really good bit with a turtle that's in love with a rat, and the turtle moves too slow to catch up with the rat.
Okay.
And the rat is always hungry. So you have to leave a little trail of food to the turtle to get the rat to walk up to the turtle so they can talk, so they can fall in love. And you just get some experience points, and then they get little hearts by them. And that's it. Like, that's the quest. But it's so fucking adorable.
You helped sin against nature.
Yeah. Exactly. So I created the first trat, or Wordle. Wordle. But it's just like, man, a rat with a turtle shell.
Oh, unstoppable.
That's fucked up. Like Splinter went too far. That's what would happen if the mutagen ooze landed on Splinter and the turtles.
And while he was holding the turtles, yes.
Yeah, instead of just on the turtles, which is what happened. Yeah, that's interesting. Somebody
has drawn that. So
yeah. I'm very curious about that now. Because like if I just had a turtle shell, like I just had my normal flesh body, but there's also a turtle shell.
Yeah.
Think of the ergonomics. It'd be horrible.
That'd be awful. You wouldn't be able to sit down.
Couldn't sit. Couldn't
turtles
sleep.
ain't got asses. Come on, man.
No.
You gotta balance that shit. Come on.
That'd be really difficult. I hope that never happens to me.
Yeah. Any sorcerers out there, please don't.
Yeah, please. I prefer not to be polymorphed.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's really incredible. Like Pet Pal, talking to every animal is worth it. And you get hints and stuff too. Like you'll be in a dungeon and a rat will tell you a secret way through things. They have a lot of personality. A lot of the jokes come through in this.
Yes.
So
I like it. Lots of equipment. You're going to be working very hard to keep your equipment up to date. This is fiddly in that regard. You can find in the world, you will buy and barter from people that you meet. There's an affinity system where if you think that you're going to be working with a particular vendor, you will want to give them things, either give them money or give them items in order to raise that affinity stat to get bigger discounts in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing with barter. One of the mods that they added in was it'll always take your character with the highest barter into account, which is great. So you don't have to just switch to them.
Yeah.
To talk. The way that equipment works in this is a little bit like plus 3% frost damage shit.
Yeah.
You tend to get, when you get a bonus to a stat, that's significant because that's the equivalent of a level, and levels are huge.
Yeah.
But there's not much in the way of bespoke equipment that has unique effects. There are some. It's just rarer.
Right.
Than you might want. And there is kind of a, it's not a huge bummer to me, but I can understand people bouncing off it, is doing the what is the rhythm in which I check my equipment?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be every time you get something.
No.
For me, I tend to do it between adventures. Like I go into a whole quest line and then I check my equipment and go to the store. And sell off my extras.
Something that was a bit of a bummer in that regard is the inventory and encumbrance system. So every character has their own inventory, and they each have their own kind of carrying capacity. I wish that there was a way to press a button to distribute the weight across different people automatically, because I understand okay, everybody needs to have their own potions, or they would need to have their own loadouts, because this health potion has no use for Fane. I need that poison, baby. I understand that, but if I'm running around as my main character and then all of a sudden I'm coming up, switching over to Beast or somebody else who has high strength in order to pick stuff up and use him as my pack mule, is kind of annoying, and something that I just found myself bouncing against more so than in other RPGs of a similar kind of ilk.
It's interesting because there's kind of a half measure with it. In the options, you can turn on something called Magic Pockets, which allows people to use things from other people's inventory.
Only outside of combat.
Inside combat as well, at least in the enhanced edition.
Oh, I thought that it was only outside of combat. Yep.
Nope. You can do it with anybody. So what I do is I just have whoever my strongest person is carry everything. It still ends up being obnoxious for another reason though, which is trying to find a specific item. Yes. Because I spec Lose as my fighter, and it is just her inventory is a couple pages long. It's huge, and that is a bummer. There's a really robust crafting and item modification system in this, down to where you can create almost anything from the game. Yeah. So you can create an oil barrel if you if you don't have one. Sometimes you need an external, like a device like a crafting table or an oven or campfire, something like that. Generally, you're going to use these for scrolls and potions. Yes. And arrows more than you're going to use these for armor and weapons.
That's what I've ended up running into, all these staples, right? Has been kind of the deal for me. And you talk about needing special equipment, all that's available on your hub after the first act. Yes. So you
eventually just get that active, which is great. Yeah. And this is down to this is for detail. There's a very robust food system in this. They'll give you certain buffs for a good amount of time. Yeah. And you can just get tons of food and make little dishes and stuff. I don't engage with this that much outside of, grenades, arrows, potions, and scrolls. But it's there if you want it. So, I mentioned earlier, this is rigorous.
It's a difficult game, Gary.
It is. This is hard. It is up to you to stack the decks in your favor in this game.
For me, I found it being just a little bit too rigorous to make progress. Survivability was a big issue. Just kind of seemed like enemies were stomping circles around me. What I appreciate is when there is something between normal and easy. So they've got the whatever they call the normal, and then they have story mode, which is there is still combat, but it's pretty undemanding. They have kind of an in between spot called Explorer that is a perfect sweet spot for me.
Yeah, I always want player determined difficulties.
Yes.
for this stuff. I'm playing it normal right now, and I'm at the point where I'm stomping a little bit much just because I've been through these. So I'm going to bump it up is my current plan. But you can change it at any point. So this also stops you from getting to an encounter and just being locked.
Yeah.
You know, not only because the game's very non-linear and there's almost always stuff to do and a lot of the encounters are optional, but also you can just switch it to story mode for an encounter and then switch it back if you need to.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure there's other stuff that we will have to get to when it pops up in the game because it is a really complex and very meaty game. Very generous.
Yeah. Let's talk about the aesthetics. So we already, talked about the mechanics are the lead in this. The writing is no slouch. I especially am a big fan of the pre-made companions.
They're great.
Each of them is interesting in their own way. Like I said, the dwarf you like violence, like pretty cool backstory to that dude. Like he's got buddies around the world who are gonna like tell you his backstory, which is fun.
Really awesome thing about Beast too is that depending on which side of the dwarven politics they lay on, they'll say different things about him.
Yes.
I was reading about that. So like he has a different reputation in different parts of the world. And it's kind of up to you to determine which is true.
Yeah. But even the human, who's just kind of like a darker, edgier Aragorn kind of guy, like he's a member of like a mercenary assassin guild kind of thing. Like each of them, and like those are the two most boring characters that you can get.
Yeah.
Right?
And everybody's more interesting from there. And both of them are well done. And also like just incredibly voice acted.
Yes.
Not all the voice acting in the game is absolutely astounding. Like it's all pretty good. Again, nothing embarrasses me.
Yeah.
The main characters are just really likable.
Yeah.
I like hanging out with these folk.
Yes.
It's interesting too, because you get a different version of them when you play as them versus when you have them in your party. So the first time I played through the game, I had Losa in my party. Now I'm playing as Losa. I'm getting a lot more detail on her quest, but I'm determining her voice, So it's, I think you mentioned that your Fane is like a well-meaning, curious skeleton.
Very affable. Yes.
Affable skeleton in, real Fane, canon Fane, is very arrogant.
Okay.
And he's still, you thaw out these people who are her jerks. Like this is a group of damaged people.
Yeah.
And you thaw them out. And there's like weird, surprising kind of softness. Like I'm rolling with the Red Prince, and this who is also very arrogant. He's an arrogant lizard man. And the experience of like going through him with his journey and seeing that he's actually like, not a hooker with a heart of gold, but has a heart of gold.
What? Can you clarify that a little bit more?
Yeah, like it's not like he's he's subverting the expectation.
Yeah.
Like you think he's just going to be a haughty asshole, but he's actually like very much a romantic.
Gotcha.
And he's very sweet. He's just really guarded and kind of insecure. And that comes out really subtly throughout the game.
Yeah.
In a way that's very well observed.
Yeah, just generally like up and down. I haven't hit like a sour note with any of them. And it was difficult to decide which two I was going to leave to their ignominious deaths. So
yeah,
bye Ethan and Red Prince. Yeah,
yeah. Ethan good. Like Ethan doesn't have that much to do.
Yeah,
with stuff. So even though he's again better than you might think.
Yes.
The world itself and the stakes initially feel very generic. It's kind of just, fantasy, you basically understand this. It has the kind of religious order oppressing a mage group, Dragon Age kind of thing.
Yeah.
As it goes on, it spirals out into being a little bit more ambitious and singular. Than this, once you start learning about the source and the original gods and everything, it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah,
than it starts off.
By the time we reach the end of the stuff we're covering in this episode, it feels very different. Because you're going to learn, what the gods are and what their relationship is, with the goings on that are happening right now, what they used to be. That's all cool and good. And like even before that, as you're learning details about why the Divinity are doing what they're doing, by hunting down sorcerers, and kind of the way that they either rationalize or don't rationalize what they're doing. Like that makes it a lot more interesting than Dragon Age 2, where they're, even the leader doesn't justify it at all. He doesn't feel the need to explain himself to you, but he just kind of says, I am doing this not because I think it's right or because it's going to be a justice. I know how history is going to remember me. This is about survival. And I think that alone, maybe coming off of Dragon Age 2 and the way that they handled that conflict, my expectations are very low. That alone made it way more interesting to me to understand where these people in this order were coming from.
They're just not idiots.
Yes.
Like there are evil idiots. There are people who are evil for the sake of evil, but it's not a monolith.
Yeah.
And you get both sides of it, and it doesn't feel as fakey as Dragon Age. Like the second act largely involves checking in with different sorcerers, which are the people who are hunted, and some of them real bad dudes.
Yeah, probably shouldn't be in Gen Pop.
And some of them are actually incredibly solid, and really good. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And you'll run into, sorcerers who are oppressed for no reason, who are not hurting anybody, and people who suffer because they're sheltering them. And it just does it. I didn't really put this together during Dragon Age 2, but this does so much of a better job with those themes and stuff.
Yeah.
Than that does of like, a potentially dangerous classification of people.
Yes.
Which is dicey territory in the best of times, but this is model handling of it in terms of showing a little bit more nuance.
Yes. Agreed. The music, Gary. Holy shit, the music.
Yeah.
I expected it to just be some
combat
loots.
one.
Oh, the song that plays on your hub on the Lady Vengeance. Like, fucking earwormy as all hell. And even just like the regular, just overworld song, the da 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 da. Yeah, that very good. I like how you can choose the lead instrument that plays for individual characters as well. So that has kind of a dynamic score going along.
A Peter and the Wolf kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. You're playing this on PS4?
Correct.
You said.
Yeah.
So are you playing it with the controller? So I imagine?
Yes.
So I'm playing with the controller now too. I'm playing it on Switch, and the next note you have in the notes here only really applied for me with controller.
Yes.
Not that it's not a note, but I'm also running into a problem with this that I didn't run into when I was playing it with a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. So I'll explain it here. I like how detailed and colorful things are. I do wish that there was a way to wireframe it or cut down on the detail or like the sway of things that like the wind blows or what have you. Because like, most pressingly, I ended up getting a lot of like misclicks sometimes. And I wish that there was a way to do, to have like combat undo. Like that would be fun just because there were just like some honest mistakes where like, no, I thought I was going to be behind that guy, but I kind of walked off to the side and got an attack of opportunity. Well, that sucks. Stuff like that. That is totally, just an expected result of playing it on a controller, which generally is fine. I just kind of weighed the precision of a mouse and keyboard versus I'm going to be playing this for 80 hours and I'm going to be on my overstuffed recliner. God damn it.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that the thing that would hold true, even if I was on a mouse and keyboard right on top of this, visual clutter, it does make this difficult to read to certain degrees.
Yeah. With mouse and keyboard, you zoom in and you kind of get a macro view and it's a little bit easier. But with controller, initially I kept accidentally stealing things.
Oh, geez.
Which is, not what you want to do. Like you can get away with like trying to, and they'll warn you, it's not like it's instant guards getting called, but that is a bummer for sure.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, this is part of a long running series by Larian Studios. It began with Divinity in 2002. Which I played and is kind of like a Diablo clone. I did not play very much of it.
Yeah.
And these games take place in this kind of shared world and history, but this game and the one before this, Divinity Original Sin 1, stand alone.
Yes.
So don't feel intimidated if you haven't played Dragon Commander or what have you.
Yeah, or don't feel intimidated if you haven't played Divinity Original Sin 1. This takes place thousands of years after that one does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, the Divinity Original Sin 1, good game. Great game. It's one of those cases where this more or less obviates it.
Yeah.
like Grimrock 2.
Right. I was going to make that comparison if you didn't.
Yeah. So it's still very good. This is just better if you're going to do one or the other.
Yeah. The first Divinity Original Sin was a Kickstarter success. Larian had turned to Kickstarter kind of out of desperation because their internal funding had dried up and they needed an extra kick to finish it. They went to Kickstarter right away with Original Sin 2 because they liked the experience of having fans kind of involved early on in the process. That can be, hit or miss as far as developers and their relationship with crowdfunders can go. It worked for them, and for the sequel, it was really successful. They passed their goal within 12 hours and, in fact, surpassed many of the stretch goals before they were even announced. People just kind of wanted to pre-order this game and support the effort.
Yeah, the first one was a big hit.
Yeah.
One of the bigger internal changes they made in the studio between 1 and 2 was hiring more writers. Adding complexity to the game's character and story. This shows the biggest upgrade between Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 is the story and writing. Yeah. The story and writing in the first one does have moments of embarrassment. You spend a lot of time with an interdimensional imp. And that's never a good sign, I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm not so into an interdimensional imp.
Yeah, stick
to one imp. Stick to one dimension.
You're starting in debt when you show me an interdimensional imp. It can be good, but you got a lot of work to do to show me that it was
not
worth
my
it.
imp. Not my interdimension. Don't feel like dealing with those imps.
Yeah.
So that is a huge upgrade. After the initial release, Larian created the Definitive Edition, which changed the majority of a later act in the game, smoothed over some character storylines, specifically Beast.
Yes.
And then added a bunch of official versions of fan-made mods. They're called gift packs, which you turn on and off. These are great. Yeah. These are ease of use things like being able to move faster outside of combat, godsend. As I mentioned before, the thing that gives everyone Pet Pal, it makes Pet Pal give you a bonus when talking to animals. Godsend.
Yeah. These are on the console version as well through the Definitive Edition. So I was a little bit worried because you had talked about it's a hard game, but you can, make it a little bit easier through mods. Just give it an honest try and then turn to them after know what the game is like. I was like, I played on PS4. We'll see, whatever it is. It's amazing that they brought these over onto the PS4 and onto the Switch. Yes. Good move on their part. It does disable trophies, but fortunately, I don't care.
Yeah, why? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, you mean I can't have this fake how many other fake things don't I get
we can put
for having more fun?
We can put Barry Bonds in the fucking Hall of Fame, but
yeah. It's like the not getting the trophies. Like there's that bag of chips I saw that was like free of over 1,000 unnatural ingredients. And I was like, it should be free of a lot more than that. There are a lot of things I can think of that are unnatural.
That's weirdly like a Borges short story hook, like the bag that lists every ingredient that's not in it.
Yeah, it was really pretty incredible. And it's like, oh, you mean I don't get these fun bucks? I don't get this trophy to brag to my Divinity friends if I make my character move faster outside of combat. The gamers are broken. What is wrong with you?
Man.
This is ridiculous. So the definitive part of the Definitive Edition was working with Focus Home Interactive to port the game to consoles, including Switch.
How does it run on Switch? I could see it being a little bit chuggy.
It's great.
Oh,
it
cool.
runs. It takes a long time to load. Yeah. So a quick load is slow. Other than that, though, it runs great. And in terms of it just being adapted for controller, the area search function,
amazing. Yeah.
That's incredible. Like it's just a really, really good way to handle that.
Go ahead, describe that.
Well, you hold down a button to create a radius around you, and then it just gives you a list of everything that's around you that you can examine or interact with. Yeah. Rather than having to walk right up to it or click it. This took me a little while to get used to, as I was used to keyboard mouse, but now that I'm used to it, it's there's no difference between my hands and the controller. Like I'm directly connected.
It's really nice. Again, I was worried about the controller kind of aspect of it. It is not a problem for like 95% of the interactions. And it's nice to be able to play it on my big TV. Yeah. Living room boys.
I'm more of a bed boy myself.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So this was released to glowing reviews, really well received game, nominated by many awards, even though it didn't get a lot of them, snubbed for quite a few of them, which is a bummer. This was, easily my favorite game of 2017.
Yeah, like an example that just kind of shows, like, for certain categories, let's say the distinctions get a little bit weird. Like for the Video Game Awards in 2017, this was nominated for Best RPG, but it lost to Persona 5. I don't doubt that Persona 5 is a very good game, but that's a little bit like comparing apples and oranges. They're extremely different experiences that are aiming for different kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure we've talked about before how the Video Game Award is very funny and dumb sounding.
It is, yes. Less dumb sounding than the Spike VGAs, but
yeah. Even though the VGAs also stands for Video Game Awards.
But the addition of Spike,
Spike doesn't help.
Spike network does not help. I'm only saying it's relative. Yeah.
The Nuke VGAs. The Scorch VGAs.
Yeah, Scorch Network.
There was a follow-up that was being made in the same engine, but with more of a tactics focus. That was going to star the game's main cast, called Divinity Fallen Heroes. This has been on hiatus for a really long time because I'm pretty sure that Larian got surprised by having Baldur's Gate 3 fall into their lap.
Yeah.
That's still in early access. I haven't played it. I am intimidated and made stressed by its existence because I know it exists and I haven't played it. And I know it will be a huge, huge, huge spicy meatball.
Yeah. I feel comfortable waiting for it to come out of early access. Like, I know Divinity Originals, like both of these games came out in early access and it was generally just fine. It's nice having that excuse to feel okay having not played it. However, having played Divinity Original Sin, I can totally understand why Wizards of the Coast would trust Larian with specifically that kind of combat and that kind of story or that kind of game.
Yeah, I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah.
The other thing they might be distracted with is doing a board game version of this, which I am a proud Kickstarter of.
Ooh.
Look for my little portrait. No, didn't do that tier, but I'm really looking forward to it because this game, like a lot of my favorite games, has that feeling of, this could basically be a tabletop game.
Yeah.
And having a board game version of it sounds very fun to me.
I saw photos of it. It looked really involved.
Yeah. Yeah, which it should be. Like you have equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to play a version of this in my garage while I have to keep track of all the math. It's like the musical equivalent of putting on a record rather than like just firing up an MP3 player. I want to do the work.
The dice rolls just feel warmer than the random number generator in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. It's fun to roll dice.
It is.
Yeah. That's going to be it for our generalities. We're going to get into it. Just know that there will be spoilers and stuff. That's going to be more of a thing in the next episode where kind of the big plot hits happen at a faster pace. But if you are going to play this, I recommend it. If you are at all a CRPG person, don't be too intimidated. Like if you can understand Final Fantasy Tactics, I feel like you can understand this.
Yeah.
With a little bit of work, and it is worth it.
Agreed.
So we start off with a pretty quick cutscene here of this witch that is using source magic to summon monsters in the middle of the city because she is trying to get arrested and sent to somewhere called Fort Joy. Which is, they should have called it Sadness Island.
Look
they should
at
call
this
this
place.
Divorce Story.
Yeah. Well, just a little bit of it's Orwellian, just like you're living in America now. No, it's
being on Twitter, being a conservative on Twitter. Geez.
Oh yeah, no,
it's so hard for you.
Everything is named the opposite. I like that it is called Fort Joy, and everybody talks about it like it's hell. And it's pretty hellish.
Should have gone to Candy Apple Island. What do you got there? Apes.
It's technically a peninsula. Yeah.
Yeah. And she says that she went there to kill Godwoken, but instead became part of their story.
Kind of a minor part of their story.
it's kind of strange. Like this has evidence of kind of rewriting.
Yeah.
You know, this character is not actually huge in the story. She does show up some more. But, and what a godwoken is not really explained at this point. The idea is in the cosmology of this, there is a person who is what is a divine, kind of like a super pope, you know, half human, half god kind of thing.
Like a chosen avatar who is born that way. You know, like in this world for the divinity, there is this, you know, the last divine named Lucian had passed away. He is, you know, explicitly talked about like a Christ-like figure. He is invoked in the same ways.
So there are people around who are godwoken who have potential to become this next demigod super pope. And then we begin with kind of our tutorial, Troubled Waters, where we are on like a torture table in shackles, and we a person named Magister Swan. Magisters are basically, you know, the Templars.
Yeah, the Templars for the divinity. Yes.
Yeah. Releases you from your shackles here. And this is different. This a lot of the stuff is going to be different because we played as different characters. So I did not have a grinning skull address me.
Okay. So yeah, I had a grinning skull address me and, you know, kind of talk about, because I played as Fane, right? The undead guy. So I guess it makes sense that an undead would talk to him and say like, oh, I can see behind your mask, buddy. You're not fooling anybody. Who addresses Losa?
Nobody. You just talk to Magister Swan. Eventually you get the demon inside her. We'll kind of start putting in some asides. That relationship, you know, which we'll talk about, is played really, really well and creepily. Really, really well observed abusive relationship stuff.
Gotcha.
Especially during parts where she tries to get help and the demon is talking to people who are trying to help her, and the demon's urge to kind of isolate her from helplines and stuff. Like it feels very, very well observed for abuse. So much so that like if I had a lot of experience with that, it might be difficult for me to get through.
Yeah. Works for being creepy and upsetting though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I was worried when I had this grinning skull. I was like, oh, are they just going to do more? Like, is that what this is going to be?
I think it's a tribute. I think it's a shout out.
Yeah.
Divinity Original Sin 1 begins with two characters investigating a murder. Okay. Which is, I think, is a shout out to Ultima 7. I think this is them, you know, paying homage, you know, to the greats or what have you.
Yeah.
The reason why the skull can see through your disguise is you can't just walk around as a skeleton in this world.
Nope.
You know, you have to have a helmet on or be disguised as a different race.
And as Fane, you start out with your magical 3-faced helmet that will let you shapeshift into any race, and that will also confer racial bonuses onto you as well. So you can you know, turn into a lizard man if you want to dig stuff up. You're very versatile as an undead.
The undead racial bonus is great, which is just playing dead. You can just pretend to have died in combat and enemies will ignore you.
Yeah.
It pauses your cooldown, so you can't do it to cheese things. But undead also heal from poison and get hurt from healing stuff. So, you know, powerful clerics on the other side were constantly killing my Fane.
Right.
So if he was about to die, I had him play dead quite a bit.
Yep. Have him play dead in a puddle of poison.
Yeah, exactly. Like, slurp. Like I'm getting some floor slurps. If I was going to play dead, I would want to do it in a pile of gummy bears or something.
Right.
So you can just, you know, like,
stay
like
off
Frank when he sneaks pocket sausage into his mouth when he's an extra. So this is a tutorial basically that we are under lock and key, and we're learning the ropes of how to get around. There's a guy in a cell who begs you to let him out and then fights you.
Yeah.
And this teaches you about surfaces. Like there's a little oil slick outside his cell, which is very likely to get lit on fire.
Yeah.
There's a magister there who you can either sneak and steal his key to open the cell, or convince him, or fight him, etc. This is a little microcosm.
Yeah. A bunch of different ways to kind of approach these different situations. Unless we didn't make it abundantly clear, or if in case we didn't make it abundantly clear, we're on the ship on the way to Fort Joy right now.
Yes.
Along with a bunch of sorcerers who have been collared. We have these collars on that suppress any source abilities. So you can see on your menu these things that you should be able to do but cannot. So kind of tempting you later on. Yeah.
Yeah. When you go up to the next deck, your journal updates and you get some background information. I like the way that the journal is split out in this game between quest and chronicles. Chronicles are like the long form story stuff.
Yeah.
So you can get updated on that, like where you're at in the story. And then quests are more direct.
Right.
And they'll update in a really granular way. Like there aren't quest markers. It doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but it'll be like, hey, this person said there was a problem here. Maybe that's where we should go next.
Yeah.
It feels very diegetic.
The thing that I love about the Chronicle, Gary, it's presented in a bullet point list. Yeah.
Bullet point lists are great.
I love it.
What if it was presented in a list or a link to a YouTube walkthrough? You know, it's like, it'd be horrible. But instead, it just gives you the information in the best possible way. Like, yeah, bullet point lists are a godsend.
I love them.
A godwoken send.
I want the Bible in bullet point list, please.
Dude, just get to the hits. Like, I do not need all of this shit. I was in a hotel.
I've got kids to pick up at soccer, dude. Come on.
I was in a hotel recently, and there was the Gideon Bible, and the front of it has a table of contents for like what you're looking for guidance with.
Okay.
You know, I was just flipping through it because it's been a minute since I looked at the Bible, and it's like, you know, making a tough decision. I'm like, huh, and I flipped to that, and it was like, this is so like, get to the fucking point. And then once I got there, it was just ask God. I was like, fuck, that's your answer for everything. That doesn't help me make a decision. And then the second bit of it was like, but make sure you do it in faith, because if you don't do it in faith, you're not going to get the right answer. And I'm like, come on.
It's almost like they're trying to sell you something. I don't know.
Yeah, it just didn't feel those Gideons. Do not know.
No such thing as a free Bible.
Go home.
No such thing as a free cum-crusted Bible.
Yeah, well, the black light was not kind to that Bible. So we go up to that next deck, where you learn, you know, again, that Lucian the Divine sacrificed himself to save Rivellon, which is the world, from the Void. It didn't work though.
Right.
And now his son Alexander is leading the fight against the Voidwoken, and is kind of the de facto Divine. Yeah. Even though it's not really official.
Right. He is like sitting in the position kind of almost as this pretender. He's there by legacy, not by ability, and definitely not because he is chosen by the gods to be capable of doing this. And part of this, you know, part of his weakness is he is under the sway of Alexander's advisor. This woman
Dallas the Hammer.
Yes, Dallas the Hammer. Dallis, not Dallas like Texas, like the Cowboys.
Yeah, not like a buddy who hung out with Arnold fighting the Predator.
Right.
Not that Dallas. Not a sexual Tyrannosaurus Rex.
But Dallas, you know, is kind of his chancellor, although they're both pretty evil. She convinced him that the Voidwoken are attracted to these sorcerers, and you need to start using your magisters to round up the sorcerers and send them to Fort Joy via the ship here, the Merryweather.
Yeah. And basically put them in squalid conditions and give them a collar and do unmentionable things to them. Like, there are people who are magisters who think this is just a practical good, you know, and then they're a sadist in their employ as well.
Right. And it's plausible that there are magisters who, you know, on the mainland who don't understand what is being done to the sorcerers here. You find out there are crimes against humanity being done to them.
Absolutely.
And lizard manatee.
Yeah, lizard manatee. Crimes to dwarf manatee. When we talk to Swan, you know, we learned that the collar on our neck stops us from being able to cast Source. Something that is a little bit confusing if you're coming to this from, you know, a normal fantasy thing. Source is different from magic. Yeah. Regular characters use magic. You can use magic. Source is very powerful magic.
Yes.
This is not a world where like you can't use healing spells or whatever.
They can deal with somebody who turns a 10-meter radius around him into a burning inferno. They can't deal with energy vampires.
Yeah, or people can stop time, shit like that, like the big stuff. On the deck, there are magisters investigating a murder. One of the sorcerers was murdered by somebody who could use source magic. So the magister says, you know, keep your ears open, and you can choose your attitude towards magisters. Yeah. I basically take a zero tolerance policy towards magister. Let me just say that, you know, I did depopulate this island. Yeah. In kind of a general sense, before the end. And not just, you know, even magisters who are not aggressive, just because I was like, yeah, you don't get to be a collaborator, even if you're not actively participating in crimes against humanity. I brought that swath of destruction with me as well.
Yeah. I told her basically no snitches. It's ridiculous to expect me to help, to help my captors, even if it is to find somebody who killed another sorcerer, right?
And some of them are actually like pretty nice to you.
Yes.
They're ones who will try to good cop you. Like, hey, like I don't actually agree with this. It's just whenever you guys get up to your magic, like, Lovecraftian horrors pop out and kill people.
Yeah.
And we meet our cast. There's a really clever little bit this does in the tutorial that I love. So we're going through and we're checking in with our different companions. So Fane, if you run into Fane, like you were playing as Fane, he is studying a book, this Encyclopedia of Knowledge of the Ancients. And he's basically just kind of presents himself as an arrogant scholar.
Okay.
Here. If you are playing as him, tell us how Losa interacts, because I was Losa.
Yeah.
And could not.
Losa's playing with some kids. She's up there. Let me check here. Yeah. So the kids are also collared, so they're capturing kids, and she is like joking with them. They've identified her as this famous singer, and she's saying, no, I'm so-and-so. And when you walk up, she'll pretend that you're married to her and say, oh, I just say, oh, here's my loving spouse. We need to go. And you can play along or not. It's very cute the way she is, playing along with the kids and kind of keeping them entertained, because they are in a very bleak situation. Losa is she's a good person.
Great character.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a really good character, has this demon inside her, but is not that.
Right.
And keeps, one of her tags is jester. Like she makes jokes at a lot of inopportune times. And part of the idea is like, she's keeping it together. There's an elf named Sibyl, who is playing dice and telling people's future. She is an elf. In this world, elves can eat human flesh or eat flesh. And tell the history. So they can like eat somebody's arm and know about the moments where they died. And she can, and when you run to her here, she can lick your arm and tell you something that's happened to you recently, from that ability. Sibyl is a great character as well. This is my first time taking her with me, and her story is really good. And her kind of thawing is incredibly good. She is a runaway slave.
Yeah.
And she is hunting down the person who used to own her, who has given her a living scar. She has a scar on her face that still like festers and moves and oozes and stuff that is preventing her from kind of realizing her destiny.
Yes.
And she is, like a thief archetype, but again, they subvert it. Like she's not just, my name is Blade, I'm a first level D&D thief. She is very like, if you are affectionate with her in terms of like friendship, she's very affectionate and can be very vulnerable with you in a way that is like really sweet.
Yes. Yeah. You also find a dwarf named Beast, who can kind of like listen to the creaks of the ship and identify the way that it moves. Just a very intuitive person, very, very intuitive seaman, right? And he says, based on the amount of time that the helmsman turned the wheel clockwise, it means we're going east, which means we're almost at Fort Joy, getting around this reef. Like he knows this place. And is just asking you if you can hear this stuff as well. The idea of a dwarf who is comfortable at sea is not something that generally is done.
No, he's like a pirate.
Yeah.
And he's a very good guy. Nice guy. There's a man named Ifin, who will run to going to be called like the Stalker, who's basically the Lord of the Rings ranger. He adjusts your collar to make it more comfortable, and he has a history with one of the magisters here. He used to be a commander, but he was deposed in the Inquisition. We're going to find out about him. He was one of the Lone Wolves, which is a band of mercenaries, and was very involved in a atrocity that happened in this world, and his kind of quest is about atonement.
Yes.
If you follow his storyline.
Yeah. So the different characters' pasts would put them kind of at odds. So the fact that Ifan is a former lone wolf or is associated with that organization, Sibyl is kind of like fighting against that, or is working against them because somebody within the lone wolves had enslaved her, right?
Had sold her to the slaver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
run
into
he's not a fan
conflicts.
of them either.
No.
So you can make them get along. There are no party incompatibilities in this, which I think is smart, because you're choosing these characters because they have, it's not like Baldur's Gate 2 where they have a quest.
Right.
The characters are interwoven into the events and history of the game. Making two characters mutually exclusive would be a real pain in the dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The final person here is this lizard man named the Red Prince. And he uses his conversation to size you up and determine if you would make a good slave. Like he's asking any maladies, like, can you stand up straight for me? Like he wants to see inside your mouth. It's real
series of questions about how whether you'd be a good seamstress tailor.
Yeah.
know?
Like
And
what role could you serve in my court, basically?
yeah. Also, again, a surprisingly good character. Like, he is a deposed emperor from this, and he has this fate within his people, which his storyline deals with, which I'm also seeing for the first time because taking him with me this time, and it's very cool.
Nice.
Good character, surprisingly tender and good-hearted once you get to the core. Even though he does, start off by saying, "Hey, or would you be a good breeding stock?" Which is not a good foot to get out on.
No. And, even when you're like talking to him on the island, like I did everybody's content on Fort Joy Island itself. Like even when you're talking to him, like he is, mostly concerned with making sure you understand that, one day his empire will extend, from horizon to horizon, as it did once before, very concerned about kind of like building his hegemony back.
Charitably Sundare. I would say.
Yeah.
I hope that in real life nobody ever sizes me up for my teeth.
I mean, yeah.
In some ways it'd be good because I'd fail it, I think, because my teeth are not super great.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happens in that scenario to people who, probably not anything better.
Yeah. So. It's dehumanizing. Oh.
When you get to the front of the deck, we talked to Magister William to get registered. This is where we have to go. And they're interrogating this sorcerer named Wendigo, saying that she's the killer. So we're not going to be doing a murder mystery on the ship.
No, she admitted to it. It's a bad murder mystery.
The ending comes first.
Yeah, and Wendigo is the woman from the witch from the intro. This is the crone kind of person, and she admits to the killing, tears off her collar, and emits a source blast. And her goal is to bring the Void Walkers down onto the ship. Sorry, Void Woken down onto the ship.
Yes. So we get knocked out. When you're feigned, you lose your mask that allows you to impersonate different races, which sets up the mechanic where you have to be wearing a helmet.
Yep.
If you don't want to have fear put in everybody. With Fane, who's in my party, I'm not maining Fane, but I got a Fane with me. It makes a really interesting trade-off because the ability to have any racial bonus is really great, but you give up having a helmet.
Yeah.
And helmets are your primary source of armor.
Yeah.
Or not your primary, but is one of
four main sources of armor that you have.
Yeah. And stat buffs and such. So I just recently made the switch from Elf Fane over to Helmet Fane. The Elf ability is really good. You take a bite out of your arm to get an extra action point.
It's great. Yeah.
It's really, really useful. You lose a little bit of maximum health in order to get an extra action point, but action points are king.
Yes. And that action that you can fire off. So if you're like, oh, I've only got one action point, that only costs one action point. But you know what I mean? It is free, but it will give you an action point. That 1 point could be the difference between firing off the one action that will turn the battle.
Yeah, it doesn't cost an action point to take a bite out of your arm.
Right.
There are a couple of abilities that will increase your action points, and they tend to be free. They just work on their cooldowns.
Yeah.
When you get above deck, this gigantic Voidwoken Kraken is ripping the ship apart. This will be a recurring enemy throughout the game. And there are little void bugs that you have to fight to get to this lifeboat.
Yeah.
When you get there, a dwarf we met earlier is trying to shove off with the children who are playing with Losa, and the child says there's still people below decks. Really cool little moment here. This game is made for replay. You can leave now, and there are no consequences. So if you're like, I've seen enough tutorial, you can get through this very quickly.
Yeah.
If you want to. But what you're intended to do is go down and save them, where you get into a big fight with all the other adventurers, and they all show their signature racial ability.
It's pretty cool.
So you can see them. Like it demonstrates what they look like in person. Like you go down there and Beast will petrify somebody because dwarves have a petrifying touch. They can turn people to stone. And this is a really cool preview to see how these characters fight, since you're going to be choosing which ones you want.
Yeah.
After this.
This is a very elegant way to provide you with a demonstration. And also, I think to provide, like, you know, you are getting a turn in edgewise, but this is way more friendly NPCs or, you know, friendly characters than are going to be here. They act on their own, so you're not responsible for, like, discovering this. And it will show you, like, kind of how pyrotechnic a lot of these battles can be, and kind of how intricate a lot of it is.
And how classes work.
Yes.
You know, so Sibyl... My Sibyl isn't a thief, but she starts as a thief, so she's going to be doing backstabs and dual wielding and stuff. And you'd be like, oh, that's what she's doing. She's getting into people's back arcs to get critical hits.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. If you save them, there's this great little bit where Magister Swan, the first one you ran into, is dying, is bleeding out. And we didn't really talk sugar about this. How good is the narrator in this game?
It's very good.
Really good. Like, it's just a British voice, but it's really well performed.
Yeah.
You can't save her.
Nope.
It's giving you this I also feel like is a mission statement for the game. You are not always going to get the good boy point in this. We are you know, purely under slightly more sophisticated rules than that, where like you can't save them all. You're going to be making choices that you don't know the consequences to. You're going to be taking suboptimal outcomes because their stakes are really high.
Yeah.
So you get to choose, and the narrator keeps saying like, oh, you know, the boards are buckling, like water is leaking in at every surface. It's up to your ankles now.
Yeah.
You know, as you're trying to save this Magister, and you can't do it.
Right.
The monster will rip the boat in two if you keep trying. You can go up onto deck, and it will also win at this point.
Yes. Regardless, I mean, for me, you survive regardless. It's not like you're going to know have to load if you try to save Magister C1. I ended up kind of being drawn beneath the sea, but some kind of voice spoke to me and said, "I have plans for you, child," and kind of like lifted me up to the surface. And you end up washing up on Fort Joy.
Yep, that happens for everybody.
Okay.
Every one of these characters who is a godwoken has kind of a patron, which we'll talk about, and there are lots of twists and turns for that. Since there are two humans, Ifan, you know, has the human god who does this. For Lose, the demon inside her is the one who saves her from drowning, which is very cool. And we wake up at super fun time for it. On the beach, which you know, we're just initially start here and we can head towards the fort city. There are a few mandatory little like cutscene things we'll see, but refreshingly few.
Yes.
And our main mission here is to escape, and there are a bunch of ways to escape.
Yeah.
Which this is best in class shit for just like multiple. There are more ways to get out of this than I thought.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly cool.
And the way that the journal communicates that to you is really good as well, because like instead of giving you, you know, saying like, oh, you need to get off of this island, it presents a couple of different strategies. So there's the path of common knowledge to talk to people to figure out, like, you know, how to work with them. There's a path of greatest resistance, which is like turn a Magister and fight them directly, or you know, just wing it, follow your own path, like find one of these ways out yourself. Kind of giving you ideas of what to pursue. Yeah. And just, again, signaling to you how things are going to be handled from here on in. Yeah.
We do see a little cutscene here at the gates where we run into Alexander and Dallas, who are holding judgment against a lizard magister named Atusa. They accuse her of helping sorcerers escape. She denies it. And in your version, she cuts out her own tongue rather than name her accomplices.
Yes.
Here. I think that she did that as well. I hear, and then immediately gets gibbed,
right.
Murdered.
You can pick up her leg. You can loot her leg off of her, and either feed it to an elf and get a little bit of knowledge about the Magisters, or you know, keep it as a snack for somebody later.
Yeah, it can be a pocket leg.
Yeah.
One of the things that also happens when you're an elf and you eat limbs is you'll sometimes get skills.
Yeah.
I think there are 4 that you can get, and that's really cool as well. Like, you're getting their knowledge, so it would make sense that you can learn how to do things.
Yes.
From it.
Yeah. But like you walk through the gates into Fort Joy itself, which is kind of the part where everybody is mostly at is this ghetto. And there, things here. Generally, you've got the kitchen, which is run by a, this kind of gangster guy named Griff. Which is funny. He operates out of the kitchen. And you have these kind of refugees who are hiding away in this cave at the back of the island
these
along
elves.
the beaches. Yeah, these elves.
Elves in this world were subject to a great atrocity.
Yes.
The Divinity used something called death fog, which is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It is an instantly lethal gas to basically massacre them, an attempted genocide.
Yeah. And even
so they
burned down the forest of the ancestor trees. When an elf dies, they are reborn as a tree to continue their afterlife. And burning them down or cutting them down effectively denies them that.
Huge indignity.
Yes.
So much so that you can talk to different ancestor trees, and eventually, when you get the ability to talk to ghosts in the game, you can talk to logs and things that were made of them. They're still in there; they're just trapped in there, and it's hell.
Yeah.
So really, really nasty stuff. Your main quest is just to escape the fort and then escape the island, but you want to do side quest because you're starting this at level 1. You want to levels are huge in this game. If you're playing this at home and you have had a really hard time with it, get a level under your belt.
Yep.
There is very specific level scaling in this. You can look and see the level of an enemy, and you can basically fight anything that's your level. And if it's a level higher, unless you know what you're doing, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And if it's 2 or 3 levels higher, it's definitely out of your league. So you want to do side stuff at the very least in order to get a little bit of wind in terms of getting some more abilities and more points.
Something that I really appreciate, you don't just get experience for combat, and you don't just get experience for quests, completing quests or, completing milestones on the way to finishing quests. You also get exploration experience.
Yes.
And a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing here at the beginning doesn't necessarily involve combat or some of the more intricate mechanics. So, if you do find yourself just completely unable to deal with combat, you can go and do the soft narrative stuff and still get enough to level up once or twice and start making some decisions to get more powerful and also kind of tailor your guys to your to your abilities.
When you're going to want to get some equipment as well.
Yeah.
So going around and stealing or finding stuff is pretty important here. This isn't quite, Fallout 2 where you can get through the whole game without fighting anybody. Combat is too integral to this engine, but they reward you for every aspect of playing the game.
Yes.
So when you first come in, one of the encounters it leads you to is Burrow, who is one of Griff's lieutenant, is shaking down these elves for a payment. And Ifan is there from the boat, and he's intervening.
Yes.
So you can, if you are not a bigot,
right.
Which you're probably, I think the game is assuming you're not going to be a racist
right.
As you go through it. You can side with Ifan to fight them.
Right.
With Ifan and Elodie, who is the elf woman. Nobody joins in with the bad guys, and this kind of tells you a little bit about the magisters who are fine just letting these people fight amongst themselves.
Hey, fewer of them for us to deal with.
Yeah, we don't have to feed you.
Yes.
It's pretty dark. Yeah. And you can take them out. And when you do, she says, follow me to the cave. And this is where the elves are. They don't want to cooperate with Griff and the other toughs in there. They have a bodyguard outside of the cave, and there are a bunch of little quests and stuff we can do in there. And also, this is one of the pathways to get out.
Yes.
This is kind of the first common knowledge path.
Right.
That they send you on.
There's a pathway through the back to these labyrinthine caverns that is blocked up with crates and stuff. It's a little dungeon you can go through. And you can talk to some kids and they will take you to a specific person who can help you. I was a meanie and I didn't agree to play hide and seek with the kids. So I didn't get to do Withermore's soul jar. Yeah,
it's great. This kid has to go play hide and seek with them, and if you find him a couple times, he's because these caves used to be Brachus Rex, who is this character in the lore, who is this horrible tyrant, sorcerer king, used to be on this island, and throughout this act, we're going to be running into his victims.
Yep.
He was a really big fan of eternal ironic punishments. And this kid who was playing hide and seek in this cave system found this old chamber where he had one of his lieutenants permanently speared to a wall.
Jeez.
Until he died and became a skeleton and still lived. And his soul, his soul was taken out in a soul jar, and he'll tell you a way to get into the fortress, get into the dungeon there to escape if you can, so you can break his soul jar.
Yes.
So that's one of the ways to get out. And, you get the spear of Brachus Rex, which is in him, which is a good early spear. And also you get to do a cool skeleton as solid.
Yeah.
Which I like.
I like ending eternal punishments. This is pretty good.
You get to do it a lot in this act.
Yeah.
Those pigs.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't resolve the pigs. We should talk about the pigs when we get there.
Yeah, we'll talk about pigs, baby. We'll talk about pork and beans. We'll talk about all the pigs, all the bad pigs.
So you can start a quest in here called The Imprisoned Elf, kind of at the front of the cave where the refugees are living. There is an elf woman named Sahala. She is blind, but she has far seeing, so she can kind of, she's a seer. She's like an oracle, right? And Losa has a very specific interaction with her. Your demon takes over and starts trying to kill her.
Yeah. And you have to beat her down to make her come to her senses. Yeah. This was really tricky as her being my main character. I failed the checks to resist. So the rest of my party had to start beating the crap out of her.
Yeah.
And she sees the demon inside her and just says, I can't help with this. You have a really tough road ahead of you. But we can help you get out if you can help my protector, Amiro. Amaru? How do you pronounce this?
Amiro?
He is being held captive by Griff. And so when you go and talk to Griff, he's like, Amiro was found stealing my produce, my oranges. And you can question this, hey, oranges aren't that.
We're on an island, dude.
This is Orange City.
You can grow them
Animal
shits.
Crossing? Yeah. But he's like, no, we need these oranges, and he'll only suffer so many questions.
Yes.
From you. Griff is a shit. So if you will eventually kill Griff if you're killing people on this island. There's a really great little bit. One of his lieutenants is this woman named Butter. Who falls in love with you.
Okay.
Basically, you see her and, you talk for a little bit and you kind of hit it off, and she does not like being in this gang of malcontents.
Okay.
And you can make a promise to meet up with her later and stuff. And then if you get into a fight with Griff, she'll side with you.
Oh, nice.
Which is really nice. Because I did not suffer Griff to live.
Can she escape with you, or do you pull a Rusty and Sally?
She does not escape with you.
Okay.
But there is closure to that story, 3 acts down the road.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah. So you go and you search along the beach. There's a crate that has a mark that smells like oranges. And there's a nearby lizard man named Stingtail, who admits to taking the crate, but only because the oranges were being used to smuggle this hallucinogen called Drudine. That will turn anybody into a lucid dreamer.
Yes. There are different companions who want something to do with the Stingtail character. The Red Prince wants to talk to him. The Red Prince is trying to find the Red Princess. Okay. And he's trying to find lizard people who are called dreamers, who are people who take this drug and can kind of far see and tell the future and kind of tell what to do. Yeah. So he'll go up to him and take a nap. With Stingtail, which you can, while that's happening, you can rob Stingtail blind.
Nice.
Which is very fun.
He has a lot of skill books. Yeah.
Yeah. There are there's a merchant for every kind of skill book on this island, and you are going to want to steal from them or murder them and take their stuff.
Yes.
After that, he just gets pointed to another lizard that he needs to find. But Sybil got captured on purpose. Yeah, she got captured on purpose because this is beginning the line, of her trying to find her master. Yeah. And we don't actually find out what Stingtail's connection is to that because she kills Stingtail quickly.
Yeah. There's a system here where, if you're running around as your main character, and any of your companions have business with a person that you're talking to, they'll tap you on the shoulder and say hey, I've got something to do with this guy. And you can either agree or not agree. And this can go bad for you here with Sybil. There are times, if you have Fane as your as a companion, he'll be like, this person has a nice face. I think I'll take it. That kind of stuff.
Fane is trying to find a face ripper in this first act, yep. which ethically harvests faces.
And
you can question this.
Do it?
Yeah, you can be like, how is this ethically? It's like, well, usually they've passed away, preferably of, natural causes. And you can be like, oh, you must love going through a battlefield. And he's like, well, you'd think that, but there's so much damage. And he just takes it very seriously in terms of a face buffet. So there are multiple ways you can do this. Obviously, you can persuade him to give the oranges back. You can steal them. You can kill him.
Yeah.
You can get the oranges, which are filled with this drug. That you can have. You get a bunch of entries of it, like a bunch of doses, and it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's another reason why I decided to keep it and kill Griff. But also I don't truck with people putting people in cages.
No, sucks.
On the island.
Yeah. But yeah, it was I think that I ended up leaving Griff alive. I thought that things would come to a head, but then I was outside of the Fort Joy itself, and I was like, whatever. Let him be king of his little kingdom.
It's up to you what fights you want to start, and there's an element of gaminess to it.
Yep.
Like I was, I had Fane as my thief, and Griff has 2 knives I wanted, and that was enough. Like I'm not role playing this as a bastard who just kills everyone, but I am playing as somebody who does not suffer, certain assholes to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you get Amiro back to the cave safely, he will mark a spot on your map that for a tunnel. And hands you this amulet. He says, "Hey, Sahira is way too important to die." Yes, Sahelia is way too important to die in this camp. When you get out, you need to give this to some elves that I'll tell you about, and give them this amulet to come and rescue her. And if you talk to her about this, she'll say, "Yeah, that's not going to work out. I'm not going to get out of here."
Yeah. So that's one way of getting out. Another one, you'll run into this magistrate named Yarrow up on the ramparts who's looking for somebody named Migo. She won't explain why she's looking for him, but she'll ask you to find him. And we can go off to an area on the beach where Migo is. He's just slaughtered a bunch of people and he's feasting on them.
Yeah.
He's a ghoul, he's a geist.
Yes.
And he asks you where the yarrow flower grows. If you have a yarrow flower, you can give it to him. And he gives you his ring, which will kind of complete this quest. If you don't have this, he will fight you. And it's a tough fight, but like all tabletop games, turn economy works in your favor. If it's 4-on-1, you can win. You're just getting more turns. So I ended up having to fight him.
Oh, geez.
I did not have a yarrow flower.
Yeah, I just happened to have one because I picked it, and this is really sad and shows what it shows what bastards the magisters are. Because think, okay, he wanted a yarrow flower. I was given this quest by Magister Yarrow. I went back to her and said, hey, this geist is down on the beach. He gave me this ring. She can't believe what you've said. Like, oh, my dad isn't a geist. Or also, this guy, Migo, is my dad. You can follow her to the beach, and you find Yarrow addressing Migo as her father. He was taken in by Dallas for treatment, in quotes. And, this is Magister Yarrow putting together where Dallas is getting these geist followers. These monstrosities. And kind of these things called silent monks, like people who've kind of been lobotomized almost. They can't speak and they just kind of go around and do menial labor. She has figured out that this is what happens to sorcerers who are taken below. Nero wants vengeance. Like, she gives you the key to Fort Joy so you can make your escape.
Yep. The ring that you get from him lets anybody cast Cure. Gives you the restoration skill, which is cool. If you kill him, you go tell her this, and she'll go down to the beach anyway and be really upset. And I wanted her key, and she's a magister, so she had to go. There's an arena set of quests throughout this game in every act. The first one here is below Fort Joy. This is where the respec mirror is, if you enable it. It's under the kitchen, and it's the arena that's kind of like a cult. These people who are trying to find the one. And when you go and talk to the people here, it's like the boastful one, the frivolous one.
Yeah.
And they do arena fights. These are very difficult.
Yes.
So getting it is worth it. And doing all of these is worth it, eventually, because the one you get at the end, it ends up tying into the plot in the last act. So do the one in Act 2, just before you leave Act 2.
Yeah.
In order to get a special item that will tie you in. But this is just like a combat challenge.
Yeah.
At least initially.
I gave this, like a sitting's worth of tries. Because I really wanted to figure it out. I didn't have the capability either in Avatar strength or in my own kind of understanding of the way that this combat system worked to make this happen for me. But it did give me a pretty good understanding of what happens when you don't manage the fire that gets out of control everywhere. Yeah.
Well, especially like this early in the game, your armor is garbage.
Yes.
Fire is an emergency, whereas you just wade through it later.
Yeah.
If you go through this and win, you get a choice of, one of the things this game does a lot is when you complete quests, you'll get a set of items and you'll get your choice of the final item.
I love that.
I love that so much. Like, you get it for your build. Mm-hmm. So it's like, here's a bunch of stuff that everybody can use. What do you need though? Mm-hmm. Do you need a magic wand? Do you need a dagger? You get that for doing this. And doing so will impress a merchant there who is friends with Dallas, who created the slave collars. Mm-hmm. Like, she worked with her, and she can have one of the collars removed. Yeah. This is very interesting because you can only choose one character to have the collar removed from. So you have to choose like which character to go to talk to her with to unlock that power until you can get all of them removed.
Yeah.
And these are significant.
If you walk around just without your collar, you'll be thrown in jail, which is another way out.
Which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also don't have a way to get back source points. So when you have your collar removed, you have one chance at this spell.
Yes.
So they're really cool spells, but you only get one shot at it this early in the game.
Yeah. Fane will also, he will sense, hey, Nabora is really skilled with these machines. Does she, can you get me a face ripper? You can ask her and she'll be aghast. And she'll say, if you want something as grisly as that, we've got a guy named Flenser.
Niles.
Niles the Flencher.
Niles the Fraser.
Who would probably be a little bit more your speed. But don't fucking talk to me about taking faces, dude.
Yeah, that's not my bag. What about this book? Taking faces is totally your bag. So there's a dog we can talk to named Buddy, who's very sweet.
Yep.
There, you can tell him he's a good boy, and he's sad because his mate Emmy was taken from him.
Yeah.
You just have to tell him, be good to him and nice to him like a dog, and you earn his trust. And he takes you to a buried treasure where there's a key to where Emmy was taken. Mm-hmm. And this is the prisons underneath Fort Joy, which we'll be going to.
Yes.
A little bit later.
Yeah, this key gets you into a room with some treasure. And, you could get in here without the key, but also having the knowledge, knowing Buddy's name will help you circumvent, what I understand is kind of a tough encounter with these dogs.
Yeah, tough dogs.
Yeah. What ended up being the quest that got me out of here, like the one that I ended up following, was the teleporter. Where you end up working with a bastard. you work with a real piece of shit, Gawain, who flags you down and says, hey, I've got a way out of Fort Joy, but I can only help you if you're alone. That's not the case. You can work with him. It doesn't matter. He doesn't make you ditch your party.
Yes, he's lying. He says he knows about a teleport spell that he has, and he can't cast it on himself. He has that, so he can't teleport himself. He wants you to go grab a glove that gives you the power to teleport. Mm-hmm. But it's cut in the swamp, covered with crocodilians.
Yes.
These are really nasty.
Mm-hmm.
These huge saltwater crocodiles that fling mud at you and teleport.
Yeah. Well, one of them teleports, the one who was closest to Gawain's old accomplice.
Yeah, exactly. One of them can teleport because he's got gloves in his stomach, which is really good.
Yeah.
This is a really tough fight. You want to get a level.
Yeah.
Above you. There's kind of an order of operations that I think makes sense for Fort Joy, which is like all the non-combat stuff first.
Yeah.
And then doing the poker game up above, and then doing these guys.
The poker game. I found the poker game, but I didn't. I did one thing. I gave an attempt at it, and I saw that they were cheating, and I did not have the soft skills necessary to take it any further. So
I just flipped the table.
Oh,
like,
cool.
There's nothing to it. They just tried to shake me down, and I didn't fall for it.
Yeah.
And fought them and got their stuff. So you get a lot of grenades and that kind of thing, which you want.
Yeah.
This early part. But you kill the crocodiles, and you get the gloves near this dead body of this guy named Magilla. And he was sent to Fort Joy intentionally to get to some kind of vault on the island, and teamed up with Gawain, who abandoned him to get eaten by crocodiles.
Yeah. And that happens to you. I mean, not crocodiles, but he was going to give you the old Mist 3 and trap you on a ledge.
Yes.
So, like, you go to him and says, like, hey, let's meet at this escape point. It says, teleport me down to this ledge, and then I'll teleport you to me, and then you teleport me up to the other side, and I can get to the harbor. You teleport him up to the ledge where he can get to the harbor, and he's like, later, and runs away, leaving you stranded there. Fortunately, you can still
douchebag.
Yeah. Well, he gets his. Like, you can go you can go to the harbor and fight a bunch of Madisters and loot his corpse. Like, they killed him and left him out in the sun.
Yeah. This is important tutorial information, because later, especially near the end of Act 2, you will have to traverse environments doing this kind of teleporter pinga de ponge.
Yes.
And using your self-teleportation and teleport other skills and stuff to get around.
Yeah.
So this is useful. And you're not trapped. There's a little tree trunk that you can use to shoot down into a beach.
Yes. And the beach has a
tunnel can take you in. Yep.
Yeah, it'll get you down into the dungeons.
Yeah. There's slightly more, you can do here. Outside of the companion quest. Like, there's a woman who is like, and some of these are very short, quests. And they're still worth it, though, because you get significant XP.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a woman who is convinced that her child is coming back, even though the child is dead. And this is a red herring. You can just talk to the husband and learn, like, no, we saw the corpse. You know, and the quest becomes about convincing her that, it's not about going and finding this lost child.
Yeah.
It's about convincing her to let go. And then there are also people here who you will want to murder.
Yeah.
Again, you don't have to, but like murdering Griff gives you a lot of equipment and a big economic leg up on things. There is a cave in the cave with the elves. There is a frog ambush. Do you run into the frog ambush?
No, I didn't go back far enough for that.
Some frogs ambush you. There's no story to it. They're just assholes. But you kind of go through there and you're just, again, it's gamey. I'm extolling doing combat, and generally in games, I want the non-combat explanation.
Yep.
That is, solution that is more interesting. But since the combat in this is so fun, I like to do both if I can in this. So, but you're going to do all these little mini quests as well.
Yeah.
And there's one for every companion that you have.
Yeah. I did all of these, like I did at least the stuff within the opening fort itself to get a sense of the flavor. And I think that so you don't have Ifan with you?
Not this go round. I had him my first time I played.
Okay. So Ifan will be the only blind spot for us between but on this particular playthrough.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what his thing is.
Yeah.
Because I did it the first time I played. The only person I've never had my party is Beast. Between the two playthroughs, and it's nothing against Beast, I just haven't done it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like his stuff is pretty early on. Like, you eventually learn that he's through the poker game, you could learn that he's with at least associated with the Lone Wolves, and his mission is to kill Alexander, which seems impossible. And it turns out you do that at the end of this match, at the end of this chapter. So, but just kind of like, you're going after the big fish is kind of his deal. Yeah.
The Red Prince's quest starts off, we find him, he's looking out over the sea, like imagining, visualizing his empire, which he lost there. And if he joins you, they'll do the same thing everybody does, like, tell me which class to be.
Yes.
And he'll say, like, the condition is, like, if we meet a dreamer, I need to be able to talk to them.
Right.
And this is that Stingtail person. But we also find out that there are assassins that are after him.
Yeah.
So I had a weird quick loading glitch.
Ooh.
Here. This is where I had the sorcerer crab helped me, because I ended up quick loading at a certain point where I was in this fight and two members of my party were on the other side of the map.
Oh no.
And I don't know exactly what happened. It's been a minute, but they were still in the cave. So I could go to them and try to get them to come out, which I did, but it took a minute. So it was my main character and the prince fighting this assassin who was like bodying me until the crab rolled up and fucked his shit up.
Emergency
crab. And it was
crab.
incredible. A total emergency crab. Like fuck your Yakuza like a dragon with that emergency crab. Give me this emergency crab. And so that crab helped me with this assassination. There will be several assassination attempts if you have him in your party.
Mm-hmm. It lends credence to his story that he used to be royalty.
Yeah. I mean, he's not lying about any of this stuff. The semiotics of this are, you think, like this, he's a blowhard, so this is a delusion of grandeur or something. But it is not. Mm-hmm. Everything he says is true.
Yeah. The assassin has a note on him saying, hey, you need to get caught using a sorcery spell so you can get to the Red Prince. You need to kill him and dice him up so finely that he can never be resurrected. Which I like as a detail. Like, anytime there is that kind of, just, let's say, story or practical implication to the fact that there's a resurrection spell. Like, oh yeah, no part of him can be more than a cubic inch in width. Or else you can bring him back.
Explain why you can't Phoenix down Eris.
Yeah.
You know, rather than just there being the story.
Yeah. The Red Prince feigns ignorance. You can say like, hey dude, what the hell? He'd be like, I couldn't tell you why he's coming after me. But
yeah. Eventually he will open up about this. When he dreams with Stingtail, he learns that the organization that's hunting him is called the House of Shadows. The lizard people society is these various houses. He was part of the House of War. Mm-hmm. And the Dreamers are allied with him, want to see him on the throne.
Right.
Another Dreamer is on this island, Bahara. So we need to find Bahara, but we have to escape the fort for that.
Yes, it's kind of on the swamp lands that take up most of the other side of the island.
Yeah. Tell me about Beast Quest, because I have never done it.
Yeah, so you've met Beast before. You find him on the shore, on the beach, and he's trying to pull one of these shipwrecks apart. The shores are just completely lined with all of these ships that have washed up. What he wants to do is take these broken parts and put them together into a raft. In order to escape, but as he's talking, he's like, "Yeah, I know that's not going to work. I think I was just looking for something to do." And he introduces himself and he says, "Hey, I'm Beast. My character had the lore knowledge to identify him as the dwarf who tried to overthrow the dwarf kingdom's ruler, Queen Justinia, which kind of resulted in him being cast out and kind of becoming this." Either folk hero or the greatest turncoat to dwarves. People are very divided on Beast as a figure. Mm-hmm. And he seems like a solid dude, so I agree to help him out. He says, "Hey, I'm trying to get to this town to the north called Driftwood. We're going to go there as part of the main story." And as you roll around with Beast, other dwarfs will recognize him and engage him in conversation. So, like, one that is very funny is you find this dwarven bard in the near to the kitchen, and he's singing some shanties, which happen to be about the Beast. And Beast's like, "Oh, you're singing you're singing the ones that are favorable to me. Do you know any of the royalist ones? I want to hear what they're I want to hear what they know. I want to hear what they think." And so he sings this, just scathing song, that uses his real name, Marcus Miles. And Beast isn't even mad because it had a good rhyme and a funny part. So it was like, oh yeah, that one's pretty good.
Song.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
I can't even be pissed. I really like the idea that in this game, the characters that you play as when you play as the origin characters don't just spring into existence whole cloth.
Yeah.
Without history. Like there's somebody else on the beach who recognizes Losek because she was like famous, like a famous tavern musician. And you can pretend you get to role play whether you are playing this down, whether you honestly don't remember him, or you want to be like, "Hey, how's Trix?"
Yeah.
What's been going on? Like you can choose how you want to role play it, which is cool.
Very good. So you can talk to Beast himself, and he mentions more of his backstory. He's this royal bastard who was denied succession, and so he led this coup and ended up being in prison for it. What he's doing is he's looking for this traitor named Lohar, through his operations as a pirate, he found out that Queen Justinia is planning to sink Lohar's ship, this merchant ship, in something called Operation Downfall, which can't be good.
Tom Clancy's Operation Downfall is the full name, actually.
So, Beast is like, I can't just sit on this information. Dwarves have to stick together. Like, I need to help find this guy so we can understand what's coming his way. You can find a dwarf named Carson, the Snickering one, down in the arena at Fort Joy. He knows Beast by reputation, and he will just straight up like give Beast a key that he lifted off of one of the Magisters, which will let you get around a little bit more inside. So, like, Beast being this famous rebel who, has people who really agree with his cause, ends up getting you these material benefits.
Yeah. We talked about Ifan. We talked about most of Los's thing, which is her finding out, that, or her having the encounter with Sahelia.
Yes.
And learning that she's possessed by a demon here. And she is, she keeps getting overtaken by this from time to time. And this will continually be a thread throughout her story. The kind of hook that we get here is in the prison, there's a dwarf named Zillik. He knows that you have a passenger. He used to be a demonologist, and he can't, he can't truck with you at this point. Right. Like, he tries to take a look and he gets kicked out. He's like, this is a powerful and mean demon. You need to find a more experienced demonologist. Right. There's one north of Driftwood. Everybody has a reason to go to Act 2. Right. At this point. And that thread with that demonologist and the way that story ends is one of my favorites in the game. Yeah. The demon she's possessed by and all the stuff with demons in this game. Some of my favorite demon content. Again, not, in general, like, demon content is super hit or miss, and contrasting the way that demons work in this game to Dragon Age 2. They're just so much cooler. Yeah. They're scarier. Like, they're more insidious. They're less, I'm a horny demon. Well, I'm an angry demon. I'm a sleepy demon. This is one of those games like Dark Souls where it makes me feel like other games in the genre are worse because it handles certain things that are very common to the different genres better. Yeah. The ultimate demon, the doctor who you end up running into in this, all that shit is so fucking incredibly cool to me. And again, compared to, I'm a wrath demon. There's 70 of me. Every single time you go into this sewer, there's, you just fight one of my brothers. Yeah. Like, such garbage. Yeah. Give your characters individual personalities. Please. Motivations. Yeah. It's very simple.
And Los's demon, at least as of right now, you understand that, he doesn't, most of the demons seem to want things, all this one wants to do is inflict pain.
Well, right now, because the thing is, like, Losa, being a godwoken, this demon is trying to ride you to divinity. Yeah. And the game can go very differently depending on whether you do her quest and find out his true name and do all the cool demon shit. Yeah. Like, if you get to the end of the game and there's still a demon riding on Losa, like, you fucked up. And it's not a surprise. It's not a gotcha. Yeah. Like, the game is signaling to you, like, what's happening. Yeah. And it's up to you whether you decide to ignore that. You do it at your own peril. Yeah. Or if you just want to get a weird, non-standard, bad ending that still experiences the entire game, you can let this guy ride you to victory. Yeah.
Sybil ended up working with Sybil. You can stumble on her on some brush outside the kitchen, and you catch her off guard, which is, not an easy thing to do. She freaks out on you and through kind of instinct gets around behind you and sticks a needle into your neck, into your spine. This is kind of this is Sybil's trick.
Yes, she has it's a magical needle. Yes. It is like forged from demon metal or something, and it is impossibly sharp.
Yes. I caught her marking her prey, this lizard man who had marked her as a slave. And you offer to help her, and she reluctantly agrees to join you. Just basically, I will use you, and then, and I will selfishly go wherever I need to. Screw you. Yep. We talked about how she will disembowel Stingtail, because he was the one who marked her as a slave. And we can go and find out that the next person on the line here is Griff, the fort's cook and the leader of the gang. and you can, she'll say like, hey, I need to talk to him. I need to pull him aside. The conversation with Griff is less bloody because he's bribable. Like she gives him what she wants and finds out that the next target is this lone wolf in the swamp named Zaliskar. And there's not much to it. You just find him, and he gives the next name. The person that she's ultimately looking for is this person named Roost, who we'll find in the next two.
Yeah. The quest that you have here, I talked about Withermore's Soul Jar.
Yep.
The hide and seek thing. The entire island has this quest called Artifacts of the Tyrant, where you find these cursed armor pieces that were all owned by Brachus Rex.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a scavenger hunt. It's a reason to go to these different areas. It's pretty neat because it is a really powerful set of armor that each piece has a really horrible curse that will go away if you put on the whole set.
Yeah.
So it gives you a very powerful set. It also, you get introduced a little bit later to one of my favorite antagonists in the game, which is a guy named Trompdoy.
I love Trompdoy.
Okay, I'm glad you fought Trompdoy even if you didn't do the quest.
Yeah. Well, one of the ways forward to get past the Shriekers is through the vault where he's at.
Yeah. So I'm just glad you got some Trompdoy content in your life, because Trompdoy is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Regardless of which your way is, likely through these dungeons to get down in here. And there are prisoners down here. It's pretty bleak, There's a lizard woman named Vasnia who is panicking. She's heard the interrogations and she'll try to turn you in. At this point, she'll yell for help and you can intimidate her out of this.
Yeah.
But she hears that the Magisters are asking about the godwoken, and she can hear the sounds of someone being eaten from further inside the fort.
Yeah, they're using things called mind maggots to torture people.
Little tip: take all the mind maggots you can. If you put those in a grenade shell, you get a mind maggot grenade.
Okay.
Which is a massive charm.
Ooh.
So it's a area effect charm grenade.
Nice.
So very good.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those.
It's charm or madness. It's either charm or attack whoever's closest to you.
Hey, I won't turn either of them away. Yeah.
No, they're also worth like 800 gold each. Like mind maggots are great treasure for something that sounds very disgusting.
Yeah. Great treasure because they're disgusting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a tunnel in her cell here that will lead to the marshes. She tried to escape out there, but the marshes are full of undead. She was attacked, incapacitated, and dragged back. I attempted to use the tunnel back here to see where it went. However, there's a bunch of fire slugs, and I couldn't deal with that just yet.
Should I say what the fire slugs deal is? Did you get to that later?
Yeah, good. Yeah, please tell me what the fire slugs are. Because I fought some of them on a beach, but it wasn't. What's that?
No, I like the sentence. Please tell me what the fire slugs are.
I fought some on a beach, but I never learned to deal. Yeah,
they're not aggressive with you. Which the first time I played this, I was just like, of course I'm going to fight these guys.
Yeah.
But they're not aggro. This is a section of Brachus's court who he turned into fire slugs, and they are still they're in this kind of twisted parody of courtly life. So the way you get past them is by being very obsequious and like complimenting the queen on her great beauty. Even though she is a fire slug.
I thought they attacked me, but they did definitely talk to me, and I was not reverential enough. So
yeah, you can still fuck it up. They can attack for sure. But this is just like this island is full of Brachus Rex ironic punishments.
Yeah.
So that's one way out of the dungeons through there.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't do that. I was happy I went the other way though, because there's cool stuff. I got to find the Flincer.
Oh yeah, I definitely do like when I do this game, I do everything. So
yeah,
I found all the ways out.
Yeah. So she's talking about this cellmate who's next door, Verdas. Verdas is mentioned in a memory if you ate a Tusa. The Dissonant who cut out her tongue at the beginning of the game. If you ate this, they mention it, and this will kind of let you know that there is this dissent within the Magisters themselves. Verdas is in bad shape. He looks strange. He is speaking incoherently. And he says, it is really, really important that you escape, but he won't say why. He says, oh, you are special like me. But if you ask like what makes us special, he won't clarify.
Yeah. The implication being he's godwoken.
Yes.
Given how she was saying that that's what they're looking for. Also down on this level is the Houndmaster, who is very disgusting. There's all this because this has immersive sim elements, you can get interesting little storytelling details that you don't expect from this genre. So this dude eats the same flesh that he feeds his hounds.
Yep.
When you search, his cabinet, his larder, and the table where he's eating, you can find human flesh on it.
Yeah.
So this guy who just good enough for the dogs, good enough for me, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
Really tough fight. He has 2 archers covering him from scaffolding.
Archers are no joke.
No, this, as an archer guy, this game is such pure archery porn.
Yeah.
Archery is so good in this. And it's also teaching you, as far as an encounter, the importance of that.
Yeah.
So not only do you want that high ground, but you also want to deny it to the enemy. Teleporting the archers down will make a big difference.
Yeah.
They'll do less damage. They're more vulnerable, etc.
Yeah. Your reward for this is random pickups, but also you get a red rubber ball. This will be useful for getting around the dogs if you did not do the quest with Buddy early on.
Yes, if you don't know Buddy's name. When you go upstairs, there are a bunch of these silent monks, and they're neutral.
Yeah.
They don't attack you, and there's nothing to stop you from killing them.
Right.
And which I did to put them out of their misery.
Yeah.
The idea is once you take the source out of somebody, that's also where their personality lives, and kind of puts them in a sunken place kind of thing. Yeah. If a fight here, starts here, they will be against you, but they won't initiate aggro.
Yeah.
With you. Yeah.
At one end, so I mean, this is in the notes, but it was probably another way forward. I found this kind of bridge and these magisters who were hassling a little kid. Do you know what the deal was with that?
Yeah, a little doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. These are people who were doing a little escape route. For sorcerers, but they've changed their mind.
Okay.
They've decided to, and if you kill them, the kid will take a boat and you can leave this way.
Oh, nice.
The boat will wait for a certain amount of time. I was like, hey, I need to go, check out some stuff. And he's like, I'll wait, but I won't wait forever. And it was true. I came back and he was gone. So,
yeah. Being Thane, I made a beeline for Niles the Flincer. Which, I was pretty surprised. He's flincing people's skin off of them, Gary.
Yeah, his name is what he does.
Yeah.
Dude loves to flens.
So I asked him, hey, I'm looking for a face ripper. You have a spare one laying around. And he pulls like a Hannibal Lecter, I just found my apprentice kind of thing. Ooh, another connoisseur. But just as a face ripper that is so quaint, is I think the way he puts it. There's so much more you can do than just take faces. I can show you, but I regret that I'm going to have to kill you first. And you start up this really fun fight with Niles the Flincer.
This guy's great.
Yeah.
This is a really cool fight for a couple of reasons. One is that he has these abominations in cages.
Yep.
That will break their way out, which gives you it's a logical reason to have ads come partway through a fight.
Yeah.
Where you can, I get a couple turns with just him and his silent monk apprentices, but then eventually they're going to be joined. So I am under the clock to take out some of these first people.
Yeah.
So I can keep the fight manageable. Also, Niles the Flenser is a really weirdly complete character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the villains in this game are really pretty well developed. So this guy, he's obviously just a sicko sadist.
Yeah.
He has 2 knives named Chastity and Purity.
Yes, I took those. Yeah, I'm still using them actually.
They're good. Later, you can meet his mom, and his mom is completely ignorant about what he's like. He's like, oh, did you meet my boy Niles?
She thinks he's a doctor, right?
Yeah. And then later still, you can find the house where he grew up.
Ooh.
And you can see kind of the development of his issues. And is basically kind of a psycho Norman Bates thing. His mom made him, impressed upon him, chastity and purity so hard. And the reason why he is this disgusting necrophiliac is because it's not impure to, fuck or eat or destroy a dead person because they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And you get to see his like little childhood, like his scary drawings and his diary and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Over the course of many acts. All of the big name villains in this game have more to them than you might think.
Nice.
They're not like, it's not like I understand his motivations, not more to him. Like he's a cool anti-hero.
He's got a lot.
Like he's an absolute monster.
If you listen to him, he starts making sense,
Yeah. The Flenzer's got a couple good points about flensing.
I mean, if you're going to talk about flensing, you're going to go to the guy, right?
Yeah. You got a flensing guy, you got a foundation guy, you got a lawn guy. But yeah, he's I loved when the first time I found his room, because it's so much later than you find it. And I was just like, fucking A, that is so cool because I don't expect this from not just, CRPGs, but just kind of from games.
Yeah.
The game, a lesser game would be like, yeah, you've forgotten about Niles the Flenser. But no, like a lot of these things have threads that continue into the future. Like these people have histories, and it contributes to that sim feeling to it.
Well, it's part of what makes the character, like the characters you can play as, interesting.
Yeah,
like they don't just come from nowhere. Like somebody who calls himself the Flenser, is not just is not unconnected from anything. Like it makes sense that he would have these hooks in the world. It is great that they give that same treatment. Not to everybody, because you're going to find couple of people who are just but like even just like this minor memorable character who you could have a fucked up conversation with, it's nice that they see him as like it's worth investing in exploring that. If we need content later on, why don't we make it about Niles the Flenser?
There's a surprising amount of it, even if it's not everything. So very good. He is a rogue, but he's really tough because he has a lot of backup and those meat golems. Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time that I really had experience having the backlash skill used against me. My armor by this point, still was not very good, especially against physical attacks. So having this rogue who could just hop halfway across the operational battlefield map and do 2 backstab attacks at me was pretty rough.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of resurrect scrolls got used.
From him. Oh yeah. Another like pro tip is recruit everybody just to take their shit. Yeah. Because you get a resurrect scroll from everybody. And you can also one of the developer mods you can add on makes characters regen if you rest. Which is cheating, but also I think an okay cheat.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just going and spending 600 gold. And like at the point in the game where I'm at now, I think I have like 75,000.
Yeah.
Like money is no longer like I'm at past the money point of the game. When you beat him, you get those daggers that are really good and a face ripper, which allows you to explode corpses to take their faces. And this is, I never really used the face ripper for Fane because I got his magical helmet.
Same.
Have you put on one of the face ripper faces? Have you done that?
No, I got the magical one and I was like, this is good.
I wonder if that gives you you can just use it for one. So if you have a dwarf face, you can just put it on to be a dwarf.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No idea.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Was this how you got out of the sewer? Because you get a key and you can open up a blood sewer and get out to the swamps. Was there another way you got out?
I took the path of most resistance after this. I went upstairs.
You went and killed everybody.
Yeah. All the magisters had to go.
Yeah.
There's a cool little bit, just to find that the entire world is not monolithically psychopathic. You can find, if you go upstairs, you can find a paladin. That's another kind of faction in this world named Paladin Cork. And he is, he came here just to see what's going on because he had heard disturbing rumors and was amazed to find that the magisters attacked him.
Ooh.
So you can help him out in a fight. And you can, and he'll be like, well, thank you for this. The paladins will hear about this.
Yeah.
And the paladins kind of end up being presented as the more logical, governmental kind of faction or what have you.
Paladins who don't suck.
Yeah. They're not terrible people. They're not so bad. And there's kind of a quest line with them during Act 2.
Oh, cool.
There's also a bunch of cool combat encounters, which are just, catnip to me, but there's not a lot of story to it. And I also wanted to get as much money as possible.
Yeah.
So I wanted to loot the upstairs. Really, really good one. That was, I didn't end up having to do it this playthrough, but this first time through, the first time I had to manipulate things to block off points of egress.
Okay.
So if you put a object at the top of a ladder or a couple of objects. Enemies can't use the ladder because they can't get off of it. So I ended up, there's a fight down by the docks that I had to prepare.
Okay.
Because it's a really tough fight, and it was very satisfying to do. Sneak around, put a bunch of things there, and then set up some oil slicks along the way to slow down reinforcements so I could take guys out one at a time.
I wish I would have thought of that, because I also did the fight on the harbor, like by the docks. That was really tough, and I got bottlenecked like right at the front. So I never found I never had an opportunity to prepare for that.
It's the hardest fight in Fort Joy.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, well, I feel pretty good that
Miles.
I did it straight, so that's good.
Yeah, if you did, I think that one that's really tough.
Yeah,
I did it straight this time around. The first time around, I had to cheese it though.
Yeah,
so
nice.
These are all different ways you can get out. Once you're out, you end up in the island itself, which kind of expands, as kind of it's much smaller than Act 2, but there's a lot of, still quite a bit of incident on the island.
Yeah. You can go around here. I found a dead Magister with a note from Dallas talking about kind of our next allies that we're going to be looking for, giving us a good lead that there's this group of seekers, proper noun seekers, that have taken up residence in the southeast portion of the swamp. They kind of have this lair at a sanctuary, or they're holed up there.
Yeah, that's the name I was looking for earlier. The guys who were threatening the kid.
Oh yeah,
they were seekers who decided to change their mind and defect.
Gotcha.
You're going to want to go to this seeker camp early. You can just explore, but this gives you your second little town hub, and it's also how you get your other source colors removed. On your way there, we run into some undead, that were foreshadowed, like the swamp is full of undead, where a decomposing Terramancer stops you. And he says he speaks a master higher than the dead god Brachus Rex.
Yes.
We will learn about the God King. This master ends up being very integral to the plot as a major mover and shaker.
Yes.
Kind of near the end of Act 2.
Yeah. This was a tough fight. It was my first undead party. Caster, assassin, and swashbuckler. I think thankfully, unlike D&D, you can do critical hits against them, which is good. It was tough because you're fighting kind of at this narrow gulch that is right by the burning pigs. Hey Gary, what's with the burning pigs?
The burning pigs were cursed by Brachus Rex.
Okay.
Brachus Rex turned them into pigs, and they didn't mind, so then he set them eternally on fire. And you have to wait, and the plot eventually will give you a skill called Bless, which you can use to put out their fire.
Okay.
But they're still pigs.
Right.
At this point.
Well, they didn't mind.
And then, they still at this point, they're like, well, it's been, hundreds of thousands of years. Because Brachus Rex doesn't punish anybody without also making them immortal.
Right.
So you have to tell them to go to the Amadia, the goddess of magic fountain. That's in the sanctuary. So they can go there and try to be depigged. The main one there. And hoping that will change them back.
Yeah. Go talk to this priestess. She'll unhogulate you.
Yeah, you have to be dehogified. The way the arena they're in is really interesting because they're just running around screaming on fire. Like Cody from Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
But the area they're in is full of poison and oil and stuff. So they're just causing explosions left and right. Like it's a really dangerous little environmental hazard Brachus Rex made for eternity.
Well, it's like a little crossroads.
These are not pigs of honor. Yeah. Yeah.
No porcine deed was committed here. But this is like a crossroads of a bunch of different routes through this area. So you're gonna pass by the pigs. I never found out a way to deal with them, or thought to use the bless skill on them.
Bless is really weird.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things you need to use it on, but it falls off, so it ends up becoming a thing you forget that you have.
Yeah.
Like there are a couple of doors that are cursed that you need to use Bless to open. And it's like easy to forget.
Yeah. There's another encounter a little bit to the south where you get ambushed by a bunch of voidling bugs. They come at you, and it's just wave after wave of them. They kind of burrow up from around the ground. And they are talking to you, and also the disembodied voice from the sea is speaking to you throughout the fight, telling you, hey, come find the healing waters. That's what it was telling you. Yeah.
Yep. There's another combat encounter to the Seeker hideout with void salamanders. This early part of the map is a little bit less freeform than it would be later, not least of which because you don't have that much in the way of mobility skills. So they can kind of funnel you towards things. You're still kind of in a tutorial. Like this is Act 1, but it doesn't totally take the training wheels off until Act 2.
Yeah.
When you get to the where the Seekers are, they're guarded by a woman named Bahara. And she says, prove you're not a magister. There are a bunch of different ways you can do this. And you can get in and find this little shrine of Seekers. This is your first friendly town. There's a sanctuary to Amadia, which opens up it's a fast travel point. When you find these statues to these gods, you can zip around the world with these things.
Which is neat.
Yeah.
They're destinations. You can fast travel from anywhere as long as you're not in a combat encounter, I believe.
Yep. You can, if you get, there's a feat that allows you to flee even with enemies are right next to you, which is a way you can boringly break the game because you can take down one character, run away, heal, come back. That's degenerate. I don't do that. Yep. There are also throughout the game, just so we don't talk about each individual one, there are 4 teleporter pyramids that you can find and place around and then teleport between them.
Yeah.
So you can kind of make your own points of interest, which was more useful before it patched in getting your source points back on resting.
Gotcha.
Because you would put one in the source basement you find in the second act and just hang out, zip back there between combat encounters.
Yeah. Bahara is somebody that you're looking for the Red Lizard, right? This is another dreamer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And you just find you just leapfrog.
Gotcha.
To the next lizard. Like you don't get a lot of information. You just find out that there's another lizard, on near Driftwood.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, pointing you again to Act 2. The Sanctuary. We've thrown the name Amadia around a couple of times. She is one of the 7 gods, kind of the pantheon of divinity that had their avatar in Lucian before he passed away. She specifically is the goddess of magic, and kind of the person who is tending to the sanctuary. It's a woman. Where do I have the woman's name? Where's she at?
I'm trying to remember it too.
It's like Gratiana or something like that.
Yeah, Gratiana.
Yeah.
She's interesting. I ended up fucking up her quest, so I ended up locked out of it. Which can happen. Like if you get stressed out by having a quest in your log that you can never finish, that will happen in this game.
Yes. I did do her quest, which ended up being good. It is a very sweet resolution.
Yeah, she's a good one. Yeah. The 7 those gods, she's the one of magic. There's one for each race. There's like one of strength as well.
Yeah.
The kind of macro plot of this game is about them and their origins.
Right. But this isn't just a sanctuary. Most of the people that you're going to find here are seekers. These are people who go looking for the godwoken. Yes. In order to help them ascend.
Yeah, like pilgrims.
Yeah.
They came here, to find a sorcerer from Fort Joy, but they were attacked by shriekers. It turns out that the Divinity they can take these sorcerers and kind of crucify them and turn them into instant death turrets.
Yes.
That scream at you until you explode. And they don't have a way through that.
No.
The sorcerers, the sorcerer that they were seeking was this godwoken, Virtus, the elf that was dying in the dungeon. Alexander doesn't believe anybody who is not in his father's line of succession could be the new divine. So he's locking up sorcerers, basically like, if I can't be it, nobody can.
Yes.
And they need to go challenge this. So the leader of the Seekers, Sir Gareth, has gone in search of weapons on the island that can defeat the Shriekers. And like Divinity, there's a couple different things you can use. So it's encouraging you to go explore the island and just find ways around this.
Yes. Yeah. I ended up doing a bunch of them. Not all of them. Like, I didn't go to the gargoyle maze, but you know, I went to the vault, which is important. I went to the treasury. We got a bunch of different leads that we can go for.
Yeah, and I can briefly talk about the maze. Yeah, it's actually kind of obnoxious.
Oh,
there's a dwarf. It's not really a maze either.
Oh,
I feel like you can't make a 9-room grid a maze. There is a dwarf named Dugan here who's comforting a woman named Leia, who is kind of touched in the head. She's very upset about Gareth leaving, and if you talk to her, she'll remove all your source scholars, which is great. We found a couple puddles of source throughout the game now, so we have a way to recharge, even though we can't do it consistently unless we have that mod on.
Yeah.
And Gradiana, the woman who runs this, is undead. She has a mask on. Fane knows that she's undead. You can say, like, what's behind the mask and press her and find out that she's a skell. And we get a little backstory on Brachus Rex, who was the big bad in Divinity Original Sin 1.
Was he now? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You go and fight Brachus Rex.
Yeah. But just so we know, he was an ancient sorcerer who kind of corrupted this island by using it as his playground for necromancy. So kind of a Dr. Moreau figure.
Flens the planet. So
yeah. And she says, oh, these soul forged items are in his armory. That may be a place where you can go check out. You know, just this place is littered. And, you know, we have seen, like, you can find a depleted purging wand in, I believe, Niles's lair. Like, you can see this and you can look and say, like, yeah, the Magisters kind of seem to prize these things. They're really powerful. That ended up being the thing that I used to get past the Shriekers. But, like, there are a bunch of things that kind of have this purging kind of effect.
Yeah. And that will destroy somebody who has source.
Yes. So nearest to this place is the Vault of Brachus Rex. So there's like an illusory cave wall that you can see if you get close enough to it. I think also if you have a high enough wits score, possibly.
Yeah, wits is what reveals hidden doors and stuff in this game. If you don't want to put a bunch of points into it, the clear-minded status, which is in the pyrotechnics group, gives you a big bonus to this. It's also what determines initiative.
Yep.
So if you're going into a fight and it's very key that one of your characters goes early or first, cast that on them.
Yes.
When you get in here, this is where you meet Trompdoy, who is great. He's a skeleton. He's very flamboyant and just taunts your party members about their dicks and their genitals and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really good. Like, just cast aspersions towards your ability to use genital to use that proficiency.
What's very funny about it is, and just call me simple, but the way that they pace out the dialogue is to say, "Oh, why are you so angry? Is it because you're small?" ... And you think he's going to, sidestep it because that would be a joke, right? And it's like sword or whatever. And no, just like, and after the pause, he goes, "Pecker."
Yeah. He's trying to get you into a fight. With him. And this is kind of like, there are like a couple dungeons in this game that are like prestige dungeons, which do the full gamut of like physics puzzles, riddles, and combat encounters. We talked about combat as the star of the show in this game. They're really fun riddles in this game, I think. I like riddles.
I love the riddle that is kind of partway through this.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like, it's the right level of difficulty. It's not going to, destroy you. Yeah. It's not going to puzzle fuck you, but it's it's just like, this is that good D&D dungeon riddle feeling,
It scratches a very particular itch. Yeah.
Yes. So he's going to kind of continue to hound you here. There's no visible way to go forward, so you have to cross this invisible bridge to get through, and he will taunt you with these illusory treasure chests. And when you open them up, they create these damaging environmental effects. They explode in poison or fire. And then when you get a little bit further in, he creates a version of himself with clones where it's him as every like D&D class, basically. Yeah. An archer, wizard, and fighter Trompdoy.
Yes. And it's hard.
Yeah.
There's an encounter a little bit further on, like on a bridge, where he does kind of the same thing, but he will summon in infinite clones until you kill the real one.
Yeah, and that's the real him, or closer to the real him.
Yes.
This one, after you kill him, you think you did it, and a little treasure chest appears, and it's another trap chest.
Yeah.
Because Trompe d'oeil is a huge dick, who doesn't
Pecker,
like the size of my pecker.
Yeah.
It's like, my pecker's just fine, man. There's no bad peckers. Don't you listen to the network? You get to the after you do this, after you fight that version of him, you get to this room full of these the statue of illusions, and the statue says that Trompe d'oeil was fated to become the guardian of the vault by Brachus Rex himself.
Yes.
So there's slightly more to Trompe d'oeil than just him being a skeleton obsessed with peckers.
And this statue gives us a word puzzle. I'll do my best to describe this. He will say a word. He will say, source is, X, Y, Z sources. And you can see that each of the words that he says corresponds to the letter of the first word that he said. And so he will then ask you, if source is these things, then how would you spell the word cure, which is made up of letters that you can find in source using this kind of cipher that I've created.
Yeah.
And you have a couple of different options to pick. Yeah. Just the
source
right amount of
is
lift.
Sour, original, unguent, really cool, ecstatic, something like that.
Except it is not a direct map.
yeah. It's a little bit different than that, but it's, that kind of thing. You can ask him further questions, and we learn that what Brachus Rex was trying to do here, which is researching a cure for source. This is how he found the purging wands, or created the purging wands. And I love this as a little Easter egg for people who played the first one. Yeah. Because getting into this, this dark science and shit that Brachus was into is something that we don't really get into in the first game.
Nice.
So it's really neat to see. Yeah. And once you defeat Trompe d'oeil on the bridge, we find the real one. After we defeat him, he's talking to you genuinely. He's like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm cursed. This isn't what I want to do. I'm not, I don't want to just make pecker jokes. Yeah. This sucks for me too. And you could be forgiven for thinking it's a trick.
Yeah. And also oh, you put us through hell. You expect us to sympathize with you now? Yeah.
But he's telling the truth. You can destroy his soul jar, which are these jars that have someone's soul in them. These people that Brachus Rex, you can consume those for a source point. If you decide not to do that, but you can just smash it on the floor, and he falls to his knees thanking you. He was just cursed to be this dick obsessed jester skeleton. Yeah. For all time. Eternity. Yeah. That or a burning pig, which is worse. I know I'd rather be the dick obsessed jester skeleton, but
eternity will take a lot of the shine off of that one.
Yeah, pretty quick. I think.
Yeah. Well, his isn't the only soul jar here. My understanding is you can find other necromancers. And is this where you find Withermore's soul jar as well?
No, his is actually in another area where there are fake ones. Okay. It's Withermore the this, Withermore the that adjective, and you have to find the correct one.
Yeah. So. But you can touch these different soul jars and get scenes of the lives of the past lives of the souls inside. Many of them are necromancers who kind of made this Faustian deal with Brachus Rex. I break all of them except for the one belonging to Gratiana. I'll let her decide what to do with it, basically.
Yeah, she can eat that one. I did not, for some reason, I didn't get Gratiana's here. I either broke it before the quest triggered. Okay. To have her be thankful, or did something else. But when I came back to her, she kept telling me to find her soul jar, and I was like, I've been there. It's gone already. I can't do but some flagging thing.
But did you look? Did you really look hard?
Yes, I really looked hard, Mom. But these are necromancers who made these deals with Brachus.
Yes.
At this point, and we can break all these. We can also hold on to them and confront the necromancers with them. Yeah. Who were all compatriots of Gratiana. I think they're in the Gargoyle Maze. Okay. And they'll tell you Gratiana is actually kind of bad news. Yeah. She's she did the same kind of horrible shit we did. Yes. They're all skeletons. They're all playing cards. It's real fun. And you can tell them hey, I can break your soul jars, and then you can avoid the fight. Okay. With them. I imagine they just don't show up if you break them first. Probably. But there's a card table that you probably passed at some point that was meant to have skeletons around it.
Oh, gotcha. So. Yeah. So One of the chambers here is this statue that has been defaced. This is important. You need to interact with this because you need to learn how to bless things in order to proceed. And if you examine it, your main character is drawn into the Hall of Echoes. You've heard people mention this. The Hall of Echoes is kind of their euphemism for the afterlife. Like this is the place where it's the realm of the gods where people go after they die.
Yes. Yeah. And again, this game allowing you to have very different experiences. So when you're maining the stuff that you got in the notes here, you don't find out until well into Act 2 if you're not maining Fane.
Cool.
So all the stuff about the Veil and the Void, that is a later game reveal.
Do we not want to go over it here, or?
No, we can, because it's possible to get here. You know, I can't speak to it because it's different than how I played it.
Gotcha.
When I played as a custom character.
Oh, go! I want to. Yeah, go ahead and give me both. Okay. Sorry.
The custom character just talks to the god of whatever race.
Okay.
They are. I was an elf, and the elf god was very haughty and very controlling of me, which is, in line with what we're going to find out about the gods.
Yeah.
Lose does not talk to a god. She has somebody running interference. She runs into a ghostly version of herself who is the demon.
Okay.
And this is where a lot of like the kind of abuse dialogue comes through, and you get the reveal that the demon is basically trying to ride her to divinity. And you can choose whether to resist or whatever, but this is where you get the blessed power from doing this, and he gives you those powers as well. We later learn that one of the sources of source power is demons.
Yes.
When we do the demon hunter thing. So that is how she's getting her power. It's not from a god. She was not chosen to be one of the gods people, like, strictly.
Yeah.
But this is the most plot significant thing, is what Fane gets.
Yeah, because the god that you speak to is the god of magic. It's Amadia. It's like, hey, I know that name. I saw your fountain. It's pretty cool
with that guy.
And as you approach and you hear her name and figure out who she is, you get a flashback. It's this narrated flashback of Fane's previous life. Remember, he's this guy, this undead who woke up. He was a member of this race called the Eternal. And he woke up basically to find that all of them were gone. And kind of his motivation as he goes around is he's trying to find remnants, trying to find basically what happened to them, right? And so we get a glimpse of Fane's life before he was skellified. He is researching in his library, and Lady Amadia, one of the seven lords, not one of the seven gods, just kind of part of this nobility, she comes here to see him because she's interested in Fane's research, which was banned. Oh, good.
Sorry to cut you off. So this is all done through text, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So this isn't before he was skellified. When you talk to him, we learn that the ancients are skeletons.
Oh, okay.
And like, that's one of the things when you talk to Fane, not as Fane, he's like, yeah, of course we predate you. You're inside, like, we're inside you.
Ooh.
When you die, you get reduced down to what we were.
You know what? I just assumed he was skellified. I assumed that, him being an undead was unrelated to...
No, they're
to what
all the ancients were skeletons.
Huh.
It's a squares and rectangles thing.
Okay.
Because not all skeletons are ancient. Some of them are just undead.
Right.
But the idea that, like, the reason why everybody has this kind of creature inside them, is part of is a diegetic part of the story in this game.
It's like how mitochondria, the symbol, the idea of a parasitic mitochondria kind of thing.
Yes.
This is another organism that hopped inside and you developed around it, but it's still there. Huh.
No.
Okay, cool.
So anywho,
Thank you for
correcting me. No, I didn't. I just didn't want to get angry letters from the Larian fanboys or the Larian company. I don't want my Kickstarter in danger.
Just hand you back your money. Deactivate your copy on Steam.
Yeah.
So, but she's interested in his research, which is banned by the king. He is looking into this thing called the Veil, which it's kind of this atmosphere. It's or an ozone layer. It is a barrier of pure source around the world. There's this discovery that there's a barrier, and what is outside of it. Amadia kind of continues, like, the king knew about the Veil. and he was using its power in secret. Your research to discover what it is and what's beyond it, bad news for him, because that's how he gets his power. The Seven Lords had rebelled, and the king scorched the earth, leaving only the seven and Fane alive. And now the king has a way back through the veil to this world, the void. And that's, part of what we're seeing when these bugs are coming through and speaking. I imagine they're speaking in his voice, like they're acting like his emissaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is, they're unable to keep the king at bay. The void is seeping through.
Yes.
We'll find out later why this is happening. And there is more to this story.
Yeah.
Than what we have here. Again, though, it's just really neat that you can get this huge plot revelation here.
Yeah.
Or like 20 hours from now.
Yeah.
Like way down the road when you get into an encounter in Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a big deal.
Yes.
About the cosmology. This is information nobody has. And everybody has a unique encounter here. Like you can't play as your other characters when they go in the Hall of Echoes. Like you can only play as your main character.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she says, all the gods are fighting each other. She frames it as all of the other six are fighting among themselves. She's very much involved in this kind of bickering, like everybody's at fault.
Yes.
And she grants the ability to bless, and also says, hey, you really need to worry about your companions. Each of them is godwoken. And champions of the other six gods, except for this Losa character, who is something else entirely.
Yeah.
And she is very adamant, only you can handle the power of divinity. They can help you along the path, but only you, Fane, can reach its end.
Yes. She's pushing you as her Pokemon.
Yes.
For this. And this is a thing where you're teaming up with people, but you all ultimately want the same thing.
Yes.
And there are repercussions of that in the end. You can, if Gradiana's quest doesn't break, you can, give that back to her. And we find out she was a concubine of Brachus Rex and helped create the purging wands. As he campaigned, he became crueler and more paranoid. Like he had started out as, more upstanding. Eventually, Gradiana even regretted her actions and she threw herself from a cliff, but Brachus Rex claimed her soul. So she could not kill herself.
Yes.
And would stay eternally bound.
Yeah.
On the beach, we can find Wendigo, the witch that sank our ship and took Fane's
my
mask.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's making pleas to her god to take her back. She says, she doesn't worship any of the seven imposters. She worships the true god of divinity.
Yeah.
And this is a really tough caster fight.
Yeah.
But she's alone, which, makes, again, anytime it's 4-on-1 is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. But she's got like a bunch of stuff from a bunch of different schools. She can throw out basically every one of the environmental effects, and she's on kind of this small little island. The arena works against you there. But she has good loot, and I got my mask back, baby.
Yeah, getting that mask is great. Fane can go retire now. There are some undead where there's this ruins of an armory here. I didn't end up doing this until much later. So this was a lot easier for me because I did a lot of side stuff first.
Yeah.
I imagine this is pretty tough if you go right here.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. There are a couple of like set piece battles kind of on the way. And then when you rescue Sir Garrett himself, just a bunch of magisters that are in pretty balanced parties. And as always, the archers are just, they're snipers. Archers are snipers. Yeah.
We talked about charm and turn denial being very overpowered. Another thing that is very overpowered, especially early on, is summons.
Yeah.
If you can get some summons. The conjuring skill set is not particularly powerful in my experience, but there are summons in most of the other schools.
Yeah.
The necromancy, you can summon a gigantic skeleton spider. And shit. That stuff is real good.
Yeah.
So
part of the reason why I made Losa Summoner was to kind of get that turn advantage. You summon, at least early on, you summon something called an incarnate. What you summon, like it will take on aspects of whatever ground you summon it into. So like you can summon it right behind somebody in order to get a backstab, or you can summon it into some nearby fire. So it will turn into a fire incarnate. The same thing goes for these totems that you can summon. And you can do one every turn, which is a lot. where you can summon a turret and it will take on the aspect of whatever it lands on, kind of taking snipes at different people around the arena.
Yeah, and if you summon one on the southern border of Rivellon, you get a chili incarnate. No? Okay. We've been recording for a while.
We have, yeah.
Chili incarnate, I thought was kind of okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sorry about my mournful sigh.
No, it's I'm not saying I don't deserve it, but
yeah,
it's just it is what it is. It's like I'm too defeated to fight. But he's outside of this armory. We have to go inside and get purging wands, so we can make our way to the Magister flagship and kill those shriekers. The only way forward is through this metal door into the armory itself, where the Magisters had gone and gotten cursed.
Yes.
This void curse has taken the whole group, as they were saying there, and this is where you have to like bless the door.
Yeah.
He has this and he asked for a mercy kill, and we know how we feel about mercy kills on Duckfeed.
Yeah. Down you go, Dr. Sleep. Yeah.
Once you get through there, we get the helmet of Brachus Rex, which allows you to do 3 purges.
Yes.
And then eventually gets a power called Chains of Agony, I think, which is really good. A demon pops out of the helmet after you used it a certain number of times.
Nice.
And if you fight the demon, it gets a different ability. But now we can continue.
Yes.
We have no purging wands. We have the helmet. There's probably going to be more shriekers than that. So we need to get some backup than that.
Yes. You can also, I found a purging wand in the vault of Brachus Rex. So I have both of these, and that was enough to clear the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any other kind of like quests that you can do on the island itself before we do the escape?
The big one that's cool is the dragon. Did you find the dragon?
No, I did not. This is the backup you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There's a big ice dragon in the lower right hand side of the map, and he is being bound by these chains. You think you're going to fight him, and you can destroy the chains. And he says like, "Hey, a witch has access to my power, my source, basically. You have to go kill her." And you go in this really cool set piece, this like carnal cave.
Okay.
Where there's just like piles of corpses everywhere, and have to fight this really tough caster fight where she has flying insects.
Okay. On
her team. And you go back, you get a good reward, and then the dragon will help you. And the dragon does a flyover of the battlefield and takes out a bunch of the shriekers.
Oh, cool.
For you. There's also, did you find the skeleton hand on the beach?
No, I didn't.
That is also very cute. You drop it and it points in a direction.
Okay.
It keeps pointing somewhere, so you have to
pointing to the rest of them?
It is pointing to the rest of them. You have to follow it to get to it, and it's this undead pirate captain.
Ooh.
Who is a real piece of crap. Who you either have to trick or fight, but you can get his set.
Okay.
From him, which is really, really cool. It has a bunch of neat little set bonuses, like immunity to being drunk.
Oh.
Immunity to slipping, stuff like that. It's like a cool rogue set.
Nice.
But I love the little hand that you drop on the ground and it literally just points in the direction. I'm sure there are a couple of other like little small things as well. The gargoyle maze is where, you find inside. That's where you find some more armor. It's where you find those necromancers who are playing cards.
Yep.
As I mentioned. And then the maze itself, the concept of that is you get skulls that will open a door, and they can only be used once. So you have to kind of do little puzzles.
Okay.
In the maze to unlock different skulls. And it's not very big of a maze, and you can teleport around to kind of avoid it. You just do this for experience, basically.
Yeah.
And treasures. There's another guy who's eternally set on fire. You have to bless him and put him out to get him. And he's like a scholar who will give you some more Brachus Rex lore and such. So there's a bunch of little kind of small things you can do around here. Did you run into the Magister who lost his eyes, who was blinded in the attack, who you can fool into?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I think I ended up killing him. Like he kept on insisting, and I was like, dude, like you can't see I have the upper hand on you. you have to
Magister
understand.
scum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta go. But there's a lot of little touches like that. Like this is a very dense map.
Okay.
With fun little treasures like that. So there aren't, the dragon is probably the big quest. Mm-hmm. When you get the dragon, when you get him back his power, he turns into a lizard man. Like he is a dragon knight.
Okay.
Kind of thing, foreshadowing some Red Prince stuff.
Gotcha.
They used to be literal dragons, and they've kind of degraded into these lizard men.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
that's most of it. Like, there's tons of. I'm sure we missed shit.
Yeah.
So, and that's gonna go double for Act 2, which is as big as Acts 3 and 4 together.
Yeah.
And about twice as big as this act. So it's the bulk of the game.
Yes. So let's make our escape, dude.
Yeah. When we have a way to get through this, we go back to the Seekers and we tell Gareth that we have that. So they will head up towards the ship where the ship is docked. And we find a bunch of them have been crucified. They're in the process of being turned into Seekers. Like they're not there yet or there anymore. They've been, they don't live here anymore.
Yeah.
And we run into the first kind of the trope of like the people who don't want to mercy kill them, like they're still in there somewhere, which will become a kind of a theme of, in the second act as well.
Yeah.
And Gareth is here. He's like, hey, Alexander is nearby. So this is kind of it. Depending on how you get past these Seekers, either use the helmet or wands or the dragon comes by and takes out a bunch of them near the docks to kind of race these turrets so you can get in. And Gareth says, I'm going to take the ship. Like, I'm going to take all these Seekers that you've met
later,
and get to the Lady Vengeance. Yeah. He luckily he doesn't abandon you.
Right.
It almost seems like he will, while you keep Alexander busy. And you go up to Alexander for your big climactic Act 1 boss fight.
Yeah.
Here, which takes turns. Like this takes, this goes places.
I didn't expect this to be as dramatic and dynamic as it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it changes throughout. Like it's a really well-balanced, tough fight initially.
Yeah.
Alexander is no fucking joke.
Right.
As like a battle cleric kind of character. And when you talk to him, something that I do a lot in this game is I'll go through and I'll get the story dialogue to do a confrontation. Then I'll reload and do a more tactical fight.
Yeah.
That it also feels diegetic to me because it's like, I don't need to hear this guy's speech. He's got to go, but when you talk to him, he's like, yeah, I don't, we are trying to survive.
Yeah.
Like, again, as you mentioned before, like history is not going to judge me well. It doesn't matter though, because these things are no joke. Like you've seen them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they saw what it did to your ship. Like you've seen it around the island. Like, why in the world would you want a world with more of these? Basically,
and yeah, he's not like entirely wrong.
Yeah,
like because you do this like long, difficult fight, and then partway through, and this happened for me right after I summoned or used Source.
Okay.
So when you a Voidwoken drill worm kind of thing pops up, this gigantic like graboid.
Mm-hmm.
Pops up and it becomes this interesting like three-way fight. Like the Voidwoken will fight both of you, but the Magisters, they're more concerned with that than they are with you.
Yeah, well, it's multiple stories tall and it can move around. Like it will reburrow and erupt, knocking whole groups of people down.
Yeah, which is a lost turn. Like being knocked down is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is again very cool. Teleporting Alexander out. Or kind of around the corner. So my guys could night at the Roxbury while the worm kept his troops busy. Was very satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a little bit of a fool's errand, but I tried to get as much high ground as possible. Once the worm kind of came out, I was like, I'll take the high ground. Everybody else is going to just going to be working on this guy, and then once they've thinned each other out, I can pick up the pieces. Turns out the worm can get up to the high ground as well. Like he can erupt through the building, knocking you over. So that was not as much as I wanted. Ultimately,
he minored in high ground.
Yeah. Ultimately, the better strategy was to get as spread out as possible, because if you were bunched up at all, not only would the enemies who lean more toward caster, and definitely Alexander, who loves procking blinding radiance, which is an AoE spell that will blind you if you get near him. Like basically,
it comes with his coat.
Yeah, it does.
Once you kill him and take his coat, you get the ability to do it. So
yeah, well, I took it. It's a really good coat. Coat fit for an almost divine.
Yeah,
but getting as spread out as possible was the thing that helped me with this. Enemies will teleport you as well in this one, and my Losa got teleported around the corner and had to spend a couple of turns coming back, which is a problem because that was a couple of turns that I couldn't get functional turrets out.
Yeah, which sucks. But it's cool the way that generally the enemy will play by your rules.
Yeah,
so you can legit learn tactics from enemies. We talked about in the beginning how they size you up using that lore master thing.
Yeah.
Smarter enemies will use smarter tactics in this.
Yeah.
And you 100% can learn from enemies in this. And it can be very simple things like get high ground with your archers, or more complicated things like, hey, if I teleport this person here, like through a window, because teleport is line of sight, not line of walking.
Yeah.
It's going to take them 2 turns to get back. Or vice versa, like keeping my characters behind the corner, having Thane sneak out in a barrel, teleport in a character into the Night of the Roxbury zone, and then run back while everyone has to kind of walk up, take out the individual dude.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
It's a really good fight.
Yeah. After the fight, you get a chance to loot and stuff. This game doesn't do the thing where you just get, whisked off, which is great. This woman named Malady shows up, and she's going to end up being a very important character. She is kind of demoness, like a half demon, half. She's
half demon, half elf. And if you're looking to get me to trust your character, don't call her Malady.
Yeah, it's not. It's a real telling name here. She's also one of the hornest things in the game.
Yeah.
She got a real flooded basement for Losa.
Okay.
Which I was surprised to find. It was a real flooded basement situation.
Well, she makes her first for at least for Thane, she made her first impression by trying to bite his ear.
Yeah. There's a time and a place for that, but we're literally coated in gore. You're
gonna get some false positives. You're looking to get some flesh. I definitely have some dibs on me.
Let me shower. I mean, I haven't seen one in this world, but like there's like 2 bathtubs on the next island. Let me see if I can find one of those. So she learns, what you are at this point. If you are one of the godwoken, she learns that the god talked to you. If you're a Losa, she learns that you have this demon inside you, and says like, we really can't talk now. You need to talk to my master. Talk to my friend who can train you in using the source.
Yes,
called the Meister. Which will be kind of Act 2 is all about learning the source. There are interstitial acts in this game. The first one, when we're on the boat, is kind of interstitial act. And here we do this little act on the Lady Vengeance, which is going to kind of become our hub ship throughout the game, where we can teleport back here and kind of like Majula, like merchants will relocate to come back here eventually.
It's your Normandy.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you get here, Gareth and Malady are arguing about what to do. It's not the Dead Magisters, it's the Seekers.
Oh, yeah.
All the people who you met in the little town who were nice are all dead on the ship. They died taking the ship.
Taking it, yeah. They knew there were risks. Yeah. That's what Malady says anyway. Malady wants to throw them overboard.
Yeah, we just got to go because they're stinking up the joint.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter, though, because the ship can't move.
Right.
The ship isn't a sailboat. It's made from live wood from an elven ancestor tree. So this was once an elf. And the spirit inside it is bound like a command word from Dallas.
Yes. So we're going to need to spend this interstitial act trying to figure out what that command word is. And if you walk up to the figurehead, which is this big, beautiful, carved wooden dragon, you'll see like charred bodies. Like people had tried to convince it, and it burned them. So the stakes are pretty high.
Yeah. Alexander lived through this. And he's down in the hold below with in a jail cell with some of his servants.
Yes.
And we need to figure out a way to get the ship going so we can go interrogate.
Right.
There. So we can get to Driftwood and meet Meister Siva, who is the leader of the Seekers and has plans for the Godwoken.
Right.
Alexander's unconscious. Like we can't talk to him at this point, but one of the Magister mates from the ship is awake, and we can talk to her to get the information and find out that Dallas has been dabbling in dark magic, and she uses a book of hymns to control the ship. There are lots of ways you can find this out.
Yeah.
You can talk to an animal that has heard her singing it. If you're Losa, you can get special dialogue because Losa is a musician, and she can get the animal to sing the song.
Oh, nice.
Basically, it's very cute.
Yeah. No, I got to the hymnal, and it's like 2 parts. You need to find this gem that's on Alexander's body, and you also need to loot one of the magisters, and you find a note that has the password to the kind of the magic doors to the captain's quarters downstairs.
Yeah. In the captain's quarters is a character named Tarquin, who is also going to be a big character, has a lot of cool quests associated with him. He's kind of a tinker in this opulent chamber. And he says, Dallas has me here. I was doing her bidding, like she had me dominated. And there's something that doesn't quite add up to this guy.
Yeah.
We'll learn throughout the game what this is if you pursue his kind of storyline.
Yeah.
But he has a cat with him that's a skeleton cat that he reanimated.
He insists, it's just an illusion. I did not bring a cat back to life. That would be necromancy and wrong. This is really sad if you use a pet pal to talk to the skeletal cat, because she misses her master. And, Dallas, for everything that we've seen that she's a monster, she can still love her cat, and her cat can still love her, right? And she'll be like self-conscious, like, I'm a monster. Her name is Booply Bear, which is a good name for a kitty cat. She initially recoils if you go to pet her. But eventually, if you kind of build up her self-esteem, she will accept pets, which is good. But she will tell you
ultimately like the goal of the pet percent speed run.
You want to pet the cat, yeah. Just pet the dog. This little just this little skeletal cat who just wants to be loved like a regular cat does.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah, but she'll tell you where the hymnal is.
Your first hint that Tarquin is more than he seems, at least aside just from his dialogue, is trading with him. This game does the great CRPG thing where you can barter with anybody.
Yep.
And he has this huge stockpile of awesome shit. So it's like, okay, this guy's kind of important.
Yeah,
he's going to stick around.
Thane immediately understands that he's a necromancer. You can't get him to admit it, but he knows.
So you go back with the hymnal. You can wake up the figurehead and talk to it. This dragon at the prow. You say like, "Hey, you're free now," and she's like, "I'm not. Like, I can't be free. Like, I was turned into a fucking ship. Like how like."
That's exactly how she says it too.
It's like, how free can you be if you got magicked into furniture?
Yeah.
Like I'm sentient, but also I'm a chair. Like it doesn't work that way.
Go wherever you want. I can't climb a fucking mountain.
Yeah. What am I going to do? I'll never sit down again.
Yeah.
Like if this isn't Fitzcarraldo, I can't fucking get over a mountain.
What do you feed me?
Yeah. What do I eat? But she says, she'll ally with you because you show her this kindness. She'll take you where you need to go. So you go to Driftwood, but we get a little fake out. Like we thought we had our big boss fight, and we get another like run out the clock boss fight where Dallas's fleet overtakes you. And she has a cloaked figure, like a worm tongue. They're whispering, throwing curses down at us and saying abominations. And Malady is going to cast an escape spell.
Yeah.
So we have this big, huge multi-person fight, and we have to hold out long enough for Malady to cast the spell.
Yeah. You have allies with you, kind of the remaining seekers will fight alongside you. You have Gareth, who has the Phoenix drop kind of skill, which lets him cross large areas of the map and do like flame AoEs. And you also have a caster who will end up helping you out. It's a good fight.
Yeah. And you want to keep Gareth alive. Like he can die here. Oh, you know what is a basic thing that we didn't talk about?
What?
The little squirrel riding the skeleton cat.
What?
Do you have that guy?
No, I didn't have a squirrel riding a skeleton cat.
He just like followed you around. That was in the original version too. Maybe you didn't run into him.
No, I had the black cat who followed me. I couldn't keep it alive.
Both.
What?
Oh, so there's both. There's a black cat that follows you.
Okay.
And if you keep it alive, you can summon it. And the way it participates in combat is it can just jump to areas and swap places with you.
Oh.
so it ups the mobility of whoever its master is. And then there's I can't remember the name of him. The name of his mount is like Quericus.
Okay.
But there is a guy who talks about using you as like a meat shield because he's afraid the great acorn will fall. He has this like mythology based around squirrels that will follow you for the entire game. And the reason why I thought of him in terms of keeping Gareth alive is because somewhere in some fight he died.
Oh yeah.
And now his ghost is following me around. So it's just cute. Yeah. Sorry,
no,
I thought he was mandatory.
No,
he shows up on the beach.
Did not find him. Didn't find the squirrel rider. Huh.
Yeah, he's cute.
Yeah.
Anywho, this is a tough fight, but you just have to run out the clock. So your movement stuff is very key. Like just teleporting enemies away from Malady.
Yeah.
Is good. And kind of distracting them. When she does the spell, you guys escape, but you escape through the veil.
Yeah.
And when you're there, you see all 7 gods strung up on a spirit tree hanging.
Yes.
This is a really cool, spooky image.
And the Voidwoken did this. You have to use your bless skill on one of them to bring them back. I went right to my girl. I went right to Amadia. I don't know what happens if you try to wake up somebody who isn't your patron. What happens if you're Losa? Do you get waylaid by the demon here?
Yeah, you don't bless anybody.
Okay.
The demon just negs you basically.
Cool.
During this, like it is like being inhabited by a pickup artist in some ways. Like he's a real scumbag, but he's very hateable, and I know what happens to him. So I'm happy to have him go along, give him enough rope to hang himself.
Yeah. But yeah, I brought Amadia back. Talk to her. She's this is where she starts revealing herself as kind of a dick, as an eternal supremacist, right? She wants me, Fane, to ascend to divinity so that I can succeed where Lucian failed. Like, why in the world would we have a mortal sitting in this seat of ultimate power when they could just die and throw everything into disarray? We need somebody who can be there forever, and that can be you.
Yeah. Yep. Tempting you, with this power. Afterwards we get pulled out of this veil back to the ship, suspended in the Hall of Echoes. And Malady is just like, yeah, I saved your, you can be like, that was rough. That was weird. So, yeah, I saved your life. Like, we find out that Alexander escaped during this. Escaped, and she lets us go, and we get deposited on next to Reaper's Coast, which is where Driftwood is and where the gigantic freeform Act 2 of the game is. Which we'll talk about now for the next 3 hours. Once you get off the shit, no, I'm just kidding.
No, this is this
our first all day episode of Watch Out for Fireballs.
Oh, it would not be the first all day. Definitely not our first all day sesh. Yeah.
No, not all. Yeah, but this is we're not going to do this in real time.
No.
So we'll be back in a week with Act 2 and then Act 3 and 4, which sound huge, but Acts 3 and 4 combined are smaller than Act 2.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. This is a good game. Thank you, Jonathan, for executive producing this. Thank you, Gary, for your tips. Kind of helping me through here. Get my sea legs on me. I'm excited to continue and see where this goes.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff in Act 2. Like, there's no way between the two of us we'll get all of it. Like, literally no way. But there is just so much cool shit. That happens in that, both in terms of cool combat encounters and cool short stories and medium stories.
Yeah. So, I'm going to kind of follow my nose through it, honestly, and do the stuff that looks cool.
It's freeform. Like, it's a thing where there are 5 sorcerers who can teach you, and you have to do 3 of them.
Okay.
So you get to choose which 3 you do.
Nice.
And you have a couple pieces of key information you have to find out, but a lot of it is optional.
Nice.
So. Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate you. If you like the show and you want to get episodes early and you want to get premium episodes, including our Ratchet and Clank premium episode this month, head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah. If you have thoughts on this game, on Divinity Original Sin, on Riven, the sequel to Myst, or Ratchet and Clank Into the Nexus, the deadline for responses to possibly have your response included in the dispatch episode at the end of the month, that is March. Is that correct? No, that is April the 15th. Sorry. This year is already flying by. April the 15th is the deadline for that.
Yeah. We would really appreciate that.
Go to duckfeed.tv/contact is where you submit those. Yeah.
And if you have things to say about multiple games, please separate out your responses.
Mm-hmm. What are we doing in May? So people know about that. That's exciting. That's Hitman 3. Yeah, we've Hitman 3. I don't have it written here. What's the middle one? Roller Coaster Tycoon Deluxe.
There we go. And then Revengeance.
Yes, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. The deadline for all of those is May the 15th. Yeah.
Yep. If you have sponsored an episode, we still have slots left for the year, but things are filling up. So just know that we will get to it, but it might be a little bit. We're not going to take your money. We're going to get there, but patience. We appreciate that as well. And we really appreciate the support.
Yeah.
And until next time, what should they watch out for?
They should watch out for those 7. I got a bad feeling about them.
They don't seem good. There's not a game where the gods just turn out to be good.
Yeah.
Like, be boring.